Select Board. This is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. We have a full board with us tonight. Kurt Hathaway, Joe DiNardo, Mary Ashcroft, Matt Getty, and Sharon Russell. Next time, remind me, I'll start at that end. Okay. So let's get started. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to do a few things first, then we're going to go to the Diamond Run Mall folks. Let's take a look at the minutes for September 10th. Is there a motion? Oh, I did have, well, let's see if we get a motion to approve first.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion made by Sharon, seconded by Matt to accept. I suggest, and I think we have to do this, on page 2 where the application for a new member was approved, I think we have to put the new members, the fire department recruit's name in there.
We didn't say the name. I don't know what the name was. So it was never actually said. I think he said it, but I couldn't understand it.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't have the information to put in there. So
Chief Clerk, are you on?
I am. It was Keegan Anderson.
Thank you. All right. So if there's any objection from the maker and seconder, we'll add Keegan Anderson's name. Any other additions, deletions, corrections? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Right, board member announcements, any up front? Nope, thank you. Update from the select board chair. The only thing I have is there are a few department heads who have not turned in their article for the circle, and Janelle is looking for it. And that's delaying publication. So folks, please get your article in. Thank you very much. All right, takes care of my update. All right, we're going to hold on questions from the floor, public comment, and we'd like to go to item A, which is the board to meet with Diamond Run Mall property owner Joe Anthony, who is here in person. Thank you very much. And you have some folks with you and you have a presentation for us. So would you like to introduce your team?
Sure.
And invite whoever up to the table with you.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
David. All right. David's going to come with me. David Gray, who everybody knows. So I'll start front row here.
Okay.
David Gray, of course. He will be representing the developer throughout the process. All entitlements, Act 250, and anything else we need. David and I have known each other for probably 2 decades now, and it's been helpful. And his partner before that was the partner who, of course, entitled the original Diamond Run Mall. So we're in good hands, I think, with David. And let's hope, let's hope everybody agrees.
it all goes smoothly.
So why don't you come on up and tell us what you have in mind?
Sure.
We have received a couple of handouts.
Yeah, and President from Bentonville, or from the store.
I run the Rutland store.
Yeah, he's the manager.
For about 3 years now.
Okay, thanks.
Store. I know online from Bentonville, we have at least Jason and others. Jason's the head real estate individual who's doing the deal with us. I know Chris was on his way. I don't think he's made it yet. He's their head of PR. My guess is flights aren't exactly kind to travelers these days. I drove, so I didn't want to.
Okay.
I didn't want to risk it. So I've had some delays. Over the last couple of weeks. So MSK engineers are here.
Andy Rodriguez.
What's that?
Andy Rodriguez from
Andy-
MSK Engineering.
Okay, hi.
Yes, they're going to be the lead developer engineer on the project. Again, lots of knowledge, lots of local knowledge, understand Act 250 as well as anybody I think I've ever talked to.
MSK is Bennington, North Bennington?
Yep, Bennington. We also have an office in Burlington and Hartford.
Okay, thanks.
Lyle, of course, from the executive, from the Chamber of Commerce, has been, first off, I want to thank him because I think he's introduced me to, over the last 7 or 8 years, to everyone in town, from GE Capital or GE to the Rutland Regional Hospital, all the way down to Port Killington. And again, a lot of that fruit and that effort is coming to fruit, I think, with this project. So without people like Lyle and other stakeholders kind of being involved in this project, I don't think we get to this point and have the project that, of course, we so desperately want up there.
Okay.
Well, my guess is Chris.
Yeah, right here.
Chris. So Chris, of course, is head of PR for Walmart.
Right, yeah. Government relations with Walmart.
Government relations, Walmart. And then you want to introduce yourself also?
Yeah, Al Maiorino with PSG, and we work with them in New England on marketing.
Yes. On the phone a lot, but never met you face to face. So good meeting you guys face to face.
We didn't think we were first on the agenda.
You weren't. The Pledge of Allegiance and minutes came before you.
Okay, there you go.
Gotcha. Very good.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. So we're just doing introductions now. And most importantly, my newest employee, who's going to start with showing a video straight from the 82nd Airborne, Joey Anthony. He's been with us for 2 months. He's also my son, so
I wondered, yeah.
he gets special treatment. His mother tells me I better treat him right. He's also assisting with the project and we'll start. So Joey, go ahead and let's run the video to just kind of show you what we envision. This is a rendering, of course, that Walmart did, a little bit about the trade area, of course. And that's the 3-dimensional rendering of what we want the project to look like hopefully in the very near future. So the Walmart is on the right side, and I'll go over this in more detail, but the Walmart is on the right side. And then the rest of the project, obviously, you can make out, the field house, etc. But again, a rough rendering of what the, what the project will look like when finished. So I think everybody knows at this point, but I guess I should have started with Walmart's our anchor. We have a signed agreement with Walmart. They are fully approved at the highest levels. CEO signs off on projects that are this large, and they're excited to get the process started and excited to be able to offer their full-fledged 170,000 square foot super center where they do state-of-the-art merchandise and a full array, as opposed to the smaller one they have in the market now. So very excited to start this project. Obviously, David and MSK will be running the lead for us as it relates to Act 250. Walmart also has their own engineers, engineering firm I've worked with many times, Collier's Engineering, national firm, which will work together to kind of get this thing up and built. So I did put together just a short pamphlet so that everyone can kind of see and remember. I know I like to take things away from meetings. It's easier to remember, but again, a little bit about the area and the demographics. I made me look back a little bit at the history of this deal and kind of my history with this deal. I started with the Zamiases in early 2000. Still to this day, my most rewarding project ever was when that field house opened in 2004. All those kids, it brings tears to my eyes now, right? By the way, you guys had no business building that. We didn't have enough money. Belden was like, I don't even know how it got built. But again, the old facility was a mess. I know at some point you couldn't even keep the ice cold because it kept breaking down. So it was a really special deal for me, and something that, quite honestly, it showed me what your town could do when people come together. And that was 100% grassroots fundraiser, and it was basically from the people in this town and this community. And again, it still to this day brings a tear to my eye thinking about that opening. We all kind of know the history. We sold it, and my job was to kind of I was head of acquisitions and dispositions. We saw kind of what was happening to malls in the country. We basically divested ourselves of every single enclosed shopping mall in our portfolio. A few years later, and by the way, when we sold it, it was 98% leased. We sold it for a lot of money. You guys know that because it was recorded in the deeds and so forth. And unfortunately, with 2008 and a New York City group bought it, who brought in outside leasing agents. And I remember distinctly when I got back involved, it was their lender called me. So lender calls me and says, lender I did a lot of work for, you want to lease and manage the property, we're going to foreclose. I said, well, which one? And they're like, Vermont. I was like, well, there's only 2 enclosed malls in Vermont. I know who owns the other one. And so I said, yeah. So anyways, we did that for the lender. We then purchased the mall shortly thereafter at auction, and been trying to get to this point for more years than I care to count. And Mary, especially, I want to thank you for your patience. I know your patience might have been wearing thin with me, and I don't blame you. Again, they were wearing thin with myself and my money that's invested in this project and the length of time. But again, there was a few things along the way. First off, Kmart blocked us because they were a discount department store, so we couldn't do anything. Matter of fact, that's why we bought the deal initially, was for Walmart. So Kmart hung on longer here than any other project, I think, in the country, which was disappointing for our redevelopment. We positioned the mall to demo, and then a little thing along the way happened, COVID, which is basically 3 years lost in development. And here we are today with basically the anchor I wanted from day one, and the anchor that I think can change your community. Not only, you mentioned the city picture that I put in there. Yeah, I think it's going to change the city too. And I have talked to Mike. He agrees. This is going to jumpstart his reimagine Rutland, right? There's no way to reimagine Rutland when they're in the middle of your strike zone, when you want to do all of the different entertainment and hotels and things to draw people off the mountain and kind of to our community. So I'm very excited about this. I hope everybody, after you understand the project in more detail and we come back and you hear more about the other elements of the project, that we can, all work together to deliver this, what I think is going to be a fabulous project. Again, you guys know all the fast facts. I'm going to just skip through them. Again, that's the existing Diamond Run Mall in the site plan. Now, probably the most important one is the beautiful new Walmart 170,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. You can't really tell unless if you kind of flip back to the other site plan, but we made a distinct decision to kind of stay on edge of pavement. So we're not going to disturb any more forests and trees. We're going to stay right where we're at. Where the parking is now will be the parking for the new project. We have plenty of land to develop. And we just, again, we really do want to get this thing opened as quick as we can to capitalize on a market that's been underserved for so many years. Again, one of the few places left in the country that is underserved in retail. You can't find them anymore, because of the massive development, but this is certainly one of those locations. So that's the site plan. The rest of it will be a mixed use project, and you'll probably be sick of seeing me here over the next couple of years, but we will come back. And I've been bound by confidentiality for so long and an NDA that I don't know, I'm excited, but again, I'm still like cautious because this is the first time I'm allowed to talk about this project, not only publicly to you all, but to tenants, right? So there's some tenants that kind of think they know what's going on, and we have so much demand again in this region, and I think we'll be able to deliver some great neighbors.
I think you're going to change the face of Rutland with this.
I really do.
Truly do.
I really do. Damien tried about 30 years ago, and I think we need to finish the job and do a nice mixed use project that's sustainable and will be here 50 years from now. That's certainly our belief. And then here's just some renderings again, and then their new building is just unbelievable. Again, there's the renderings of their new building. They're full-fledged with pharmacy too. Pharmacy is obviously a great addition to this project. Pharmacy, groceries, and their full line of array. Again, just some drive times, and the key one, the reason why I included this map is, the next Walmart Supercenter, 41 miles away. And I know this for a fact. There's people driving from here to there to get their goods. So what we call that in our business is retail sales outflow. It's the worst thing that can happen in a community because you live and you eat and you work here and all your money's going to some other community. And in this case, some other state, the sales tax isn't even being generated. So, to us, this will keep more dollars at home. It will keep more tourist dollars here. And instead of, oh, this is the only super Walmart. As we're driving in, I'll stop at this one, knowing that there's not one in Rutland or next to Killington or next to any of the great things that they're doing in the region. So to me, that's as important as anything for our community. The other big thing that I'll talk about while we're going through this is Walmart changes everything. Okay. And I've seen it to the good. And here's why. Hannaford and Price Chopper and every other grocery store in this region, has to be competitive now. By the way, they're doing some of the best sales I've ever seen for many grocers anywhere. Boston, New York. I don't have a grocery store in my portfolio doing the kind of volumes they are. And I have deals in Chicago and all over the country, way bigger markets again. And it's one reason only. There's not enough for the people. There's not enough services and goods for the amount of people that come to this region, that live in this region. That's why they can set prices however they want. This will everyone's lowers prices when a new, whether it's Walmart or Target or Costco or BJ's, it doesn't matter. Everybody, when there's a new boy in town, a new girl in town, that makes everybody else kind of be more competitive on pricing. So that's certainly a huge, especially nowadays when you're lucky to have $50 left at the end of the week after you look at your grocery bills and everything else, which has just skyrocketed. So every little bit obviously helps. A little bit again about Killington. Again, my goal with this project is to get those folks for $1.5 million, $2 million. God knows that the numbers change every time you read the propaganda, but there's a lot of people coming to this region in either fall foliage or skiing or mountain biking, and we want to get them here. We want to get them into Rutland and spend some dollars here and come off the mountain, especially after, I've skied here a lot with my family. After at night, there's no night skiing. So what do? You're tired. If there's something to do, you're going to say, okay, let's go down the mountains 15 minutes. If there's not a lot to do, you're just going to say, oh, forget it, kids, we'll order in or whatever. You will just stay up on the mountain. So again, I think this is going to help both not only the town, but the city draw more folks off the mountain, of course. I'll go through a couple of other, the job creation is huge. So many construction jobs, and at least between the new store and the old store, probably 100 to 150 plus jobs. And again, I used to get criticized 20 years ago when I would come and do this because, retail jobs weren't that, comparison to some others. Well, retail jobs are right there now. They're right up there. They have so many department heads, high paying salaries. Again, I know a bunch of people that work for Walmart. Joey's mother-in-law is the optometrist manager at the eye store and the one that we shop at. And again, it's much all across the board. Retail's not just Walmart, but everybody's paying retail associates a lot more, especially the managers and the department managers and the assistant department managers. And how many departments does Walmart have, Bo?
I have 16 team leads currently.
16
That'll
teams.
increase for the supercenter. So.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
I got all the answers for you. As usual.
We believe the construction phase alone will probably be 24 months. So those jobs will be here. Those people spend a lot of money when they come into town. Again, they're staying overnight, usually in a hotel. I've had one of my Walmart deals, 2 hoteliers call me and they're like, Joe, what's going on? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, two construction companies just booked my hotel for 6 months, the whole thing. It's 150 rooms. I was like, congratulations. Now you like me. He's like, Joe, keep doing it. Whatever you're doing, keep doing. Right. So, those folks will be here. Again, they're skilled laborers. The other thing too is we go local, period. End of story. This guy, MSK, Belden's already given us site work numbers. He's probably going to do the snow. We're going to bid it out like we always do. But again, I'd be shocked if there's not local contractors and local vendors working on this. He's already done updated snow. The biggest expense you have in a property like this, is your snow removal, right? So he's already done snow removal budgets and so forth. And again, so even if we, by happenstance, use an outside GC, they have to use all the subs locally. Again, it doesn't make sense to bring in subs from anywhere. So we are going to give special, hopefully most of the people working on this project will be local. And then of course, once it's built, they're all local because again, they're going to be working and living in the community they work. And again, construction like this just, raises the bar for everybody. And again, it's first on new development. That's what it does. Right. I've already talked to Great Gulf. They're doing a little bit in the region. I'm sure everybody knows about that project, 1,000 acres, already 250 acres developed. He wants to sit down and talk with me to see if maybe he can't do something here too. Again, he didn't promise, but he said, Joe, sounds like me. Yeah, I think a paraphrase. Sounds like me and you're going to be here for a while. I'm going to be here for a couple decades. So we should sit down and talk, right? I told him, I can't tell you what I got, but I have something and we're going to be in the town meeting soon. So I do think there's certainly some chance to get some synergy with some other large developers and large developments going on in the region. And then post-construction, Walmart will have at least 350 total, I think is what we were saying, employees.
Right.
The rest of the center, assuming we build what we typically do in a Walmart Supercenter project, we could have upwards of 1,000 new jobs created in this project. And again, it's great for the region. And again, a lot of them will be higher paying skill, either management positions and or other positions. And again, obviously indirect employment, that helps, there's an economic impact kind of multiplier that everybody talks about. Once you get all the people into town, once you get the 1,000 new employees here, then of course they're going to spend more money elsewhere and all that money is going to go back into the community. Obviously near and dear to everybody's heart here, it's going to be some increased tax revenue for the town. So that's always a huge benefit, which goes to public infrastructure and all the great things that you guys do. And so the other thing that a lot of people don't know, projects like people want to live next to retail, they want to live next to services, they want to live close to things that they buy day to day. So usually you'll also see a pretty good increase in appreciation real estate throughout the whole region, right? So I know, Chris could probably speak for about 2 hours what they do for the community and the communities they're part of, and Bo. So again, they do a lot of great things. They do a lot of great things in the communities they live in and are on the cutting edge of almost everything. When it comes to retail, they are the cutting edge, right? They're not a lot of people know this, but I think they were the first ones to get drones, approvals to do drones. In some markets, they're testing, drones delivering stuff to your house, right? It's outer space, like unrealistic to me, but it's happening. And they were the first ones, to my knowledge, that actually did it. And again, they are, they have enhanced pickup now, which is awesome. Again, I never used a pickup. No one in my neighborhood did. No one I knew did. COVID hit. And now it's like, I got to do pickup. It's so easy, so simple. My wife puts the list and she's like, Joe, are you in? She looks at me on Life 360. You're in Latrobe. Pick up my groceries, right? Or do this or do that. So it's certainly, again, a full faceted retailer that is and always will be on the cutting edge, in my opinion.
we may have some questions from the select board.
Of course.
And just thank you very much. Let me say that for coming in, for giving us a heads up, and for moving forward with this property, which we've been watching for a long time. And we've had calls from, to our police department and to our fire department. So I'm glad that this is going to be redeveloped. So Matt.
So I have several questions for you, Joe. First one, you mentioned hotels. Yeah, you drove up and everyone came from somewhere today, and we'll be hearing more about hotels later. I'm just curious where you're all staying.
So we're good there.
Where I'm staying?
Yeah.
I drove from Western Pennsylvania yesterday, so we're not staying in town, unfortunately. I have a closing tomorrow, so I in order to be available for that closing, I drove overnight with Joey. Joey helped me drive, and then we've worked all day, and then we're going to get back in the car and go back and do our closing and come back in a couple of weeks and probably give you some more information on our project, or maybe even sooner.
Just curious about hotel availability in town, or whether people actually stay in town, or if they're staying out
I've
of town.
talked to every hotelier in the country about this town. It's you could probably build 5 new hotels in most hoteliers. Every flag in America has approved this as a region they want to be. The problem is the cost to build hotels right now it's very problematic. They almost have to get the land for free in a lot of instances. We're doing some hotel deals, and we're actually kicking in the land, and we do a JV kind of sort of. That's one of the ways to kind of conquer the whole increased costs in development. But I am pretty sure that we'll land a hotel here, and I'm pretty confident. Every major flag from Marriott's my favorite. That's from Marriott to Hilton. They've all approved Rutland as another location. I think your newest hotel is Hampton Inn, right? And again, when it was built, I remember when it was built. It was like yesterday, right? I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express probably 500 times in my life, right? I couldn't afford the Hampton Inn. It's too expensive. The rack rate, like on a Wednesday night, was $189. This is 20 years ago. I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to stay at the Holiday Inn Express for $99, right? Then I came into town to go there, and it's closed down. It's something about mold or something. And then I think they did something. I don't know, but 100%, there's a huge demand for hotels. And I think we'll be able to get 1, possibly 2. But our goal is to definitely have a hotel. We definitely need hotels in this region.
Matt, follow up?
Different topic. And this is a question maybe for Joe, maybe for Bill. I wonder if you can highlight facts and figures or description on differences between the current store and what the new store will hold.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to take it
Are you
too,
talking
we can do a combo.
and selection?
Size, if additional features, and offerings.
Roughly the store is 80,000 square feet, give or take. We're moving to 170,000, like you just discussed. With that, you'll see a bakery, a deli, produce, meat section, which is an additional selection that we've never offered currently. Expanded food, expanded GM merchandise throughout the store, expanded apparel, basically, expanded assortment across the board that the town hasn't seen from selection wise. Including right now, we employ 161 people currently, so moving into roughly 300 territory, give or take, depending. With that, there could be again, I haven't seen the plan directly. You might be able to speak a little better, but an auto care center with that as a center on the front end, which would be great for the community as well. I know I have a hard time finding optometrist appointment from time to time, but I think that would be a great deal to the community.
Yeah, just to add on to
drive-through pharmacy.
We'll have drive-through pharmacy, and also the online grocery pickup that Joe had mentioned too. We'll have about looking at maybe 40-45 spaces for that. Because that demand from our customers, online grocery pickup is huge. Customers love it, so we want to make sure that's a service for the community as well. So that'll be obviously we don't have that now at our current store. So
and we'll have the room. Right now you have them on one side, high volume, Price Chopper on the other, high volume, and then the new Planet Fitness, which attracts a lot of people too in the middle. I worked out there after at Planet Fitness and hung out at Walmart a little bit, and it's crowded. And it was 12:30 or 1 o'clock on a what is it, Tuesday? It shouldn't be that crowded. It's crazy crowded, right? It's like a Friday. It's like a Friday before, or it's a holiday weekend. Again, it's
It means you're doing business.
I mean, they're doing what they're there for.
That's good, but when you try to jam too many in together, you know, you have a whole host of other issues, including parking and so forth. But
Any,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, so all of these things, of course, well, not all of those things, many of those things are located in the current store downtown, which, so, you know, people that live in that area can walk to. And I don't know if you want to speak to this at all, but this is, you know, I think a lot of people, when they read about this tomorrow or the day after, are going to wonder, okay, what does that do to the downtown? You mentioned you spoke to the mayor, and I don't know if you can, if it's something you can touch on, generally speaking, about what, you know, impact that may have there. Or...
Again, I know the downtown, the city has a, you know, pretty distinct and set vision for what they want to accomplish. You know, they have a 10-year plan. They're in the process of doing a 25-year plan, right? Nowhere in anything, any periodical I've ever read is Walmart in their long-term plans to stay downtown. Just the opposite. Between the train station, that developable area on the side, and then that whole area, you know, it's kind of the gateway. Sometimes, you know, if you're coming off the train, the first thing you'll see, right? You know, when I'm coming to a ski town to eat and drink and ski and vacation, you know, the first thing you don't expect the first thing you see when you walk off the train, the busiest Walmart you've ever seen, right? And I do think this will help springboard that reimagine Rutland plan. I really do. And then again, at least the initial conversations I had with the mayor was he agrees and he's excited about the project. And again, I've reached out to Brixmor already, who's the owner. I can't tell him what I'm up to, but again, I have a good working relationship with Brixmor. I almost bought the center downtown. So Brixmor pulled the deal because they were doing their 3 acres sewer redo, and they were going to subdivide Walmart and sell that separately or develop that separately. So I have a good working relationship with Brixmor. I think they'll do something pretty special there. That's my opinion. They're one of the better developers I've worked with. They're a large REIT and have a lot of pull with tenants, and I think they can help the city and the mayor, you know, see the reimagine Rutland, you know, into the future.
So last question, you've spoken a little bit in the past, I think, about your vision for the rest of the site. Can you speak about that as well? And do you have any sort of updates or timelines on when there might be any additional announcements as far as tenants or development? Yeah,
and we wanted, you know, this is such a huge announcement, so important to the community and to us. We wanted to kind of start with our lead, and that's how we always do it. I've done 12 of these, I think, over my career, all throughout the country, and the typical mix, you know, you can almost guarantee, you know, the old rules, we tried to do 2 square feet for every 1 square foot. So you would try to jam in like 350,000 square feet. And that's kind of the old rule. The new rule, you know, a little less retail, you know, so maybe 1 foot per foot of anchored GLAs is the rule of thumb. So we should have a pretty good stable of tenants. There are a lot of people still not in this region, believe it or not, a lot of retailers who just haven't come. I always tease Burlington Coat Factory. I do a lot of deals with. I always tease them.
So does that mean what we're seeing for the Walmart is one side? You would be doubling that for the other tenants potentially?
Potentially, except you know, as kind of retail evolves, the footprints are getting smaller. So we'll probably have more service and more hotels and restaurants and kind of ancillary things that aren't, you know, we used to do almost all retail, nothing but retail. And all my retailers said, you can't do anything but retail. You're not allowed to do office. You're not allowed to do medical office. If you have a shopping center today that doesn't have, we call it medtail now. Our industry always makes up words for things, but medical office is now called medtail, right? It's so important. I think I have medical office on every one of our projects. You know, this one will obviously have a pharmacy and an optometrist, but again, it's you know, again, I think this is long-lasting projects. Now you need mixed use. You need a little bit of everything, and that's the way you have longevity.
You had spoken to that before when your vision before, and it doesn't sound like it's too different.
My vision is pretty close. It's just taking a lot longer than we wanted, Mary. That's all.
Right.
And overall, just to answer more of your question too, like, on behalf of Walmart, we're thrilled and excited to, partner with Joe and be a part of this project, as we can bring to the community our, best, more updated store to the community, which we currently don't have. So we can provide more services, online grocery pickup, what have you, like what we discussed earlier. So we're thrilled about it. We love being here in the Rutland community. Obviously, Bo's active and whatnot here locally, and the associates are. So we can't wait to move forward. And obviously, we understand we have to go through an Act 250 process, and look forward to that. But we're thrilled to move forward.
So you do have an Act 250 permit. You're looking for amendments to that to fit all of this in. What's the timeline? What comes next?
So, the conceptual framework is we're going to ensure that we work with the Regional Planning Commission. I've spoken with the Rutland Town Planning Commission.
Barbara Noyes Polling is our chair. She's on. Yeah.
We anticipate we'll be meeting with the Planning Commission just to hold an informational session like we're doing here. We're going to work through the requirements that the Department of Environmental Conservation has. Mm-hmm. And for people who aren't familiar with Act 250, in many ways, Act 250 is the consolidator of related state permitting, in particular that by the Department of Environmental Conservation, which is one of the three departments which comprises the Agency of Natural Resources. And so if you think of any of the water resources that we have in the state, stormwater, wastewater, wetlands, the Department of Environmental Conservation is the primary regulator. So it's important that we first work with the Department of Environmental Conservation, because the Act 250 program is going to want those sign-offs essentially as a condition of even going forward with the Act 250 application. Then you have related concerns with the Agency of Transportation and any other state agency. So you as a select board are what's called a statutory party in Act 250. So is your town planning commission. So is the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and any state agency also is a statutory party. So in terms of putting together an application, first we're going to pursue those related supporting approvals and sign-offs from state agencies, and then use those to move forward. A good estimate, start to finish, it's going to be 2 years.
For the permitting part.
For all of permitting, yes. So that's what it takes.
Then
Outside date, David. Outside date is 2 years. That's our goal.
Okay. And then construction after that for 6 months to a year?
12 months.
Probably 12 months, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Depending upon the weather.
Right, true, true.
Sometimes Mother Nature around
You
here
never know,
doesn't
right.
cooperate with our intended schedules.
So how much are you keeping and how much are you demolishing? Do you know yet?
Yeah, so our plan is to demolish everything up to Kmart, up to the old Kmart.
Okay.
That was the plan from day one, and that hasn't changed.
And keep the old
Unfortunately,
Kmart?
just aesthetically and the skylights and just the way it's laid out. No one, no retailer I know wants to be in a mall anymore. They're all leaving malls left and right, and it will be, traditional power center. With everything except for Kmart.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of tenants who I want to keep a building who say, nope, if somebody comes along and says, yeah, this is perfect, we're ready to go, but I can't let you retrofit my building. It just doesn't meet our brand standards. And we unfortunately tear it down. Always has a tear in my eye, but sometimes you have to do it. You do it for the right tenants, obviously.
Other questions? Joey, Kurt.
I believe the original Act 250 permit, and I might be wrong, prohibited the grocery store. And do you anticipate a problem with, because I believe Hannaford's was one of the players back when the site was originally granted an Act 250 permit, which prohibited a grocery store in the complex. Are you aware of any of that? Or I believe that was one of the conditions in,
Right. And so there's a whole host of existing conditions from the original permit. And there is going to be a series of consultations and reviews. And the technically it's going to be a permit amendment because there's an existing base permit. But on the other hand, it's a new project. So I think that when we pursue Act 250, the emphasis is going to be on present existing conditions as opposed to what might have been a situation back in the mid 80s. So, but there's a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, if you want to hear, which deals with flexibility versus finality in the permitting process, and a number of decisions dealing with pre-existing Act 250 permit conditions, which I spend a lot of time worrying about, but which I assume you're not too interested in.
I don't
today.
remember seeing that. I'm one of the
Well-
only silly people I read are in permits, 1,000 pages permits from cover to cover.
It
over
was
the
one of the
years.
things that had come up, because long before I was on this board, I was here for other reasons. And I do remember being talked about, a lot of questions as to why there wasn't a grocery store included in the layout of the original Diamond Run Mall. Everybody thought that would be.
Yeah, back then, the vintage that it was built,
Yeah,
you didn't
there
do groceries. We did the first attached Walmart to a mall, Rock Hill, South Carolina. By the way, to my knowledge, I think it was the first one you ever did. I remember arguing with my New York partners over it. And finally I said, did you ever go to a Walmart, buddy? He's like, I've never been in a Walmart. I was like, well, here's what's going to happen. If we don't do the deal, everyone in the mall is going to go over to Walmart down the street and we're not going to have a mall. So they finally, Blackacre or whoever it was, finally ended up doing the deal. But back then it would be every anchor tenant I know, from Macy's to Penny's to even Kmart, they didn't allow you to have grocery stores. Not because they didn't like too many people going in and out, right? So again, it was they didn't let me do Macy's for many years. They didn't let me do grocery or fitness centers. Okay, now you call Macy's, who are your two favorite co-tenants? LA Fitness and Whole Foods. So again, it's
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good for you guys.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's a hurdle you don't have to
Yeah.
deal with.
And we'll double check that, David, as soon as.
I'll tell you something, Joey. We had our camp up near Fort Ty, and I went to the Super Walmart. I have never had meat as good as I bought in the Super Walmart. And I've been to butchers and everything else. I was amazed, and even now we'll drive over for that simple reason, because the meat is outstanding.
There's one in Manassas, Virginia, where my daughter lives, and it's like the size of the mall. And you start in one end and you can spend the whole day and not see the whole thing.
That's the goal.
That's an old one, right? And that's huge compared to what I've seen, the way. So I think it's pretty neat, but.
Yeah, just in terms of permitting, I mean, I know you said 2 years and whatnot. I mean, if it's up to Walmart, in the community, I'd say too, customers, that Bo deals with day in and day out would prefer it, tomorrow. Right. So obviously,
Paperwork takes longer than the building, doesn't it?
Yeah.
but it is what it is. We realize that, and, we'll work with the Act 250 process and work with regulators and whatnot, whatever we need to do to, during that process.
A couple of things that have been of ongoing interest to the town. One is security. And when the original mall was built, the town was not supposed to be providing the security for it. It was provided by the sheriff's department and the county. And that, then there was some backsliding, as you're aware. And then we spoke to you and we went, you provided your own security, you beefed up the security systems in there. And responses now are from a private security company.
Correct.
We still get the occasional call, but
Unfortunately, sometimes the state police don't show up when you call them to help with vagrants. And
Yes.
again, we're very
yes,
cautious with our private security. They're not allowed to manhandle people. They're not allowed to
right.
get them off the property. They have to call for reinforcement. So I do think just the last 2 weeks, we did make one call when the state police just were like too busy, they said, I think, which happens, I
And,
guess.
that's, understandable, but we will want to see that condition respected. In
100%.
Okay.
100%. And the great thing is, again, well, you know, once you have retailers and people, they have their own loss prevention.
Right.
We'll have security. They'll
Right.
have loss prevention.
Yeah.
Again, Walmart's as good as anyone I've ever seen. Every time I scan my own groceries, I make sure I don't miss anything because I know, you know, they have good loss prevention.
Very active asset protection program and loss prevention program.
Unlike some of my other retail friends now, it's just like take whatever you want and they don't do anything about it. And then they call me and tell me they can't make it, you know,
Kurt, you've been quiet.
I was just wondering if you guys had like projected yearly sales on what you think you'll be doing once the store's in place.
Tough to say. You know, and we don't really publicly talk about sales, but we know the community will love the new store. Any new store offering, you know, more of a grocery selection and pharmacy and auto center and all the things we talked about earlier. We know it'll do much better than the current store.
Absolutely.
So,
And a lot of people think they don't consider is currently we don't sell dairy products, meat, dairy products, produce.
Right.
And because we don't sell those products, we actually can offer WIC benefits. We take SNAP, but we can't accept
okay.
WIC.
Mhm.
So that opens up
Good
to a
point.
whole other clientele base that we'll be able to offer to.
Good point.
The only reason why I asked was I was trying to calculate what our options tax may be.
Go two thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
I'll answer the question. A whole bunch of sales. That's
Oh,
how
yeah.
I'd answer
Just,
it.
you know,
A whole lot.
try to do some fast math in my head.
And we also, of course, have a fire department that responds up there. So we'll, and when we get the municipal questionnaire, all of those services we'll have to check off. that we
Yeah,
have
and I
the
mean,
ability to serve
we're gonna have conversations
many.
about all the fiscal impact criteria of municipal services, to make sure that when we file that application, we're all in agreement. The final act of filing the application and, you know, I hope that the commission would want to do this as a minor amendment. I doubt that it will, but
That's very funny,
Good
David.
try.
but certainly we're going to have an application that's built around the consensus of the statutory parties, because otherwise it's just not going to be successful. So it's going to be an extensive process. And as I said, we made sure to advise all the statutory parties about this evening, including I spoke with the executive director of the Act 250 program just the other day. So we are consulting with all the statutory parties, and we know what we have in front of us.
And we will be shrinking the size of the overall. We won't have kind of the big common areas and the way malls were built. They're just big
No
monstrosities.
food court.
We'll have a food court, but there'll be food offerings, a ton of food offerings if I have my way. Yes, 100%. The other thing too is, you know, some developers kind of go into a town and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You guys are going to love it, and leave me alone, right? Just give me my permit. And you know, I've spent a lot of time with Lyle and other stakeholders. If there's something you need, something you want, some tenant that we have to have, let me know. Again, you know, we're pretty open, and you know, I want to build a project that the community wants to go to every day, day in, day out. The only way to do that is getting input from the community. So we're, you know, we're being cautious in kind of the rest of the project. We're going to wait, you know. So far I've solicited tenants for 1 minute, right? Because I'm now not bound by confidentiality any longer, and we've disclosed it. So again, we'll have a lot of people ring in my phone over the next couple of days, which is a good thing.
And on the Walmart side, you know, we're more than happy to continue to communicate with the community and whatnot. We can easily hold a community open house and show the plans and, you know, speak one-on-one. Managers can meet one-on-one with the community and describe more of the project. We're more than happy to do that. So
Appreciate
we've done
the
that plenty of
offer.
times
Thank you.
across the country. So yeah, just complete transparency with the community in terms of what we're, you know, looking to do.
Just as an aside, you've got a lot of site work to do there because the pavement, the parking lot is pretty bad. I think there was a sinkhole. I think there a broken pipe under. And
Yes,
my
it's-
observation is there are the trees that were put up there, the landscaping, the islands were too small. So many of those trees are dying. There was not enough water coming to it. So just, things like that.
No, we are investigating. We believe it's a storm drain that's broke. That's pretty typical for this vintage. I don't think I've had it happen at almost every one of my properties that are more than 20 years old. So MSK is already looking into that.
Okay.
Again, are we going to do a full blown fix? No, we're going to do a lot of site work, as you just mentioned, and everything's going to be new, so the where we can, like, I don't know if everybody knows this. I found this out early in my career. You can reuse pavement. You kind of crush it and start over right on site. It's a lot more energy efficient and so forth. So yeah, it's going to look like a brand new property when we're done.
And
100%.
we do have, I specifically insisted that Andy Rodriguez from MSK come because he is aware of the sinkhole concern.
Okay.
As
good.
well as, able to speak to what's called for those who aren't aware of it, it's basically the 3-acre stormwater permitting program.
Yes.
And the mall is within that. And so that is going to be a key component to, again, first work through the Department of Environmental Conservation, and then that flows under criteria 1 and 1B of Act 250. So that is part of it.
Any further questions from the select board? If not, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. It's an exciting proposal. Wonderful to see redevelopment occurring there. And thank you for your persistence and for, the thick skin for enduring some of our comments.
I deserved
in
it
the
all.
past.
I
There was that. But
I'm just glad you laughed at David instead of laughing at me.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We'll be
okay,
back.
Good luck. And I'm sure I'll see you a
My
number of
wife's the
times.
same way. She gets.
Outstanding.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Safe travels,
Thank you for
folks.
coming.
Take care.
Come visit the store.
Mistake tips.
Listen, I'm Italian. I love to cook, so.
How are you, Mr. Mayor? Okay.
Hey, Chris. Uh-oh.
All right.
And just
So
like
since
that,
he
everyone
has
had-
now taken over our meeting, we're going to again drop down because we've kept waiting. Megan Novak and Chris Loris, and they are reporting on the homeless response survey work that they have been doing. I know we've been in touch a bit. We've read some of your stuff.
Yep.
You've shared
And
information with us, for which we are very grateful. So what can you tell us? And
For
what
the
do you need
record-
from us?
for the record, just Christopher Loris, City Rutland, Homeless Response Coordinator.
Megan Novak, also the homeless response coordinator for the city of Rutland.
She lives in West Rutland. She didn't know she was supposed to say that.
Oh, sorry. I live in West Rutland.
You know you're in Rutland town right now. Just okay. Okay, good.
She gets it.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, we just kind of wanted to come and introduce ourselves tonight and loop you guys in on the work that we've been doing, kind of recognizing that issues related to homelessness don't necessarily stop right at the Rutland town border. So we wanted to just kind of keep you guys in the loop of what we're doing currently and where we're going, goals for the future. We were hired or contracted by the mayor of Rutland to basically, our main goal is to create a strategic plan for Rutland City's homeless response. That plan is not due until April 2026. But currently what we're doing right now is a lot of fact finding, a lot of laying the foundation for things that need to happen in order for the strategic plan to be successful once we lay it out in 2026. So kind of with the goal of creating that plan in mind, we've been focusing on a few areas to help us meet that goal. The first one that we started with was really data. Is not really collection, it's more so data survey, seeing what kind of existing data, both quantitative and qualitative, already exists out there about the homeless population in Rutland, but also the surrounding areas in general, really the homeless population that the service providers are serving. We want to learn a little bit about their demographics, yes, but more so about the needs of the homeless population. Just get more specific about the extent of substance use disorder needs or services that population might need, mental health services that population might need, vocational, educational. And so we're trying to gather as much existing data as possible to see if we can paint a decent picture of the population and, the services that they're going to need to be successful in coming out of homelessness. The second kind of thing that we've been doing is cataloging existing services, social services, as well as resources that are in Rutland City, also surrounding areas that might be able to provide services to the unhoused population. And we've really been cataloging the available services, also the eligibility requirements for any of those services, if there's any, exclusionary stuff. And noting that as exclusions might be barriers to accessing those services. We've also been identifying other resources outside of particular social services that can be administered or that this unhoused population can access. So that might be financial resources. We've recognized that there are some people as a result of the voucher program that may be in Rutland town right now, simply because a hotel room was available, but they might actually be desiring to get back to a different area in Vermont or back to an area where they have maybe job opportunities or existing social connections. So we're also, cataloging, inventorying financial resources like that may be able to assist people in making those journeys back to other areas in Vermont or out of state. Another thing we've been doing is staying, keeping our ear to the ground on what's happening statewide. The Vermont League of Cities and Towns was given a seat on the General Assistance Emergency Housing Task Force, which was created by legislation to reconsider that program and make recommendations on how that program should operate moving forward. VLCT recognizing kind of that Rutland and the Rutland area has been impacted disproportionately by issues related to homelessness. Reached out to the mayor and said, hey, can you appoint someone to represent VLCT on that board? So Chris is the appointee on the task force. I am the proxy for that task force. So, we're staying informed of the statewide level stuff from our role in the task force. But it's also worth noting that we will, have at least be able to make recommendations for that statewide program in the final report that is due in January.
I think January 15.
Okay. Yeah.
To the legislature.
To the legislature.
That's 2025. This
Yes.
is the VLCT. Okay.
Yep. Another thing that we kind of really just started getting into is starting to better understand community perspectives on issues related to housing and homelessness, and learn from community members' experiences. And we've done that we had a smaller community forum. We're having a second community forum. So that's, worth noting and spreading the word about, September 30th at 7 p.m. in the Fox Room at the Rutland Free Library. And that's, anyone can come to that. We're interested in perspectives on this issue from Rutland and the Rutland area in general. If you're unable to make it to that meeting, or if you're not comfortable speaking in public at that meeting, we also have it's a Google form on the Rutland City homepage that you can go and access and fill out comments and other information there. One of the largest things that we've been working on right now is the transitional housing facility that the mayor has proposed for the Loretta home location in Rutland. And, we were hoping, we wanted to come to this meeting because we were hoping we'd be able to give, a more meaningful update about that. But there's still, unfortunately, a lot of moving parts to that facility. If it does get up off the ground, we're trying to turn that into a facility for unhoused people in the unhoused population who are families, but we want it to be just a little bit more than a shelter and also provide services in there. So we've got to,
The model we think is up on Woodstock Avenue. Yeah.
JP had already shared that with me
Okay,
the first
good.
time I talked to him, 6 weeks ago. So we know that the bridge is up there, and we'll be talking to Kevin Loso and his partners at the hospital about that.
Yeah. We've also, identified several other areas that we know that we're going to have to get to and investigate, kind of related to the housing pipeline and general potential issues within that pipeline, as well as a lack of social service providers and a limited capacity because they're lacking those providers. But we're kind of focusing the work that we've done so far falls more so into those categories I mentioned previously. We're happy to answer any questions you have about the work that we're doing here now, but we're also happy to, if you guys think it's a longer conversation, we're happy to have one-on-one meetings with any of you. So that's kind of the quick update, and then Chris.
And I'll
has
just add
something to
I'll just add some stuff on there. As Megan mentioned, the 30th, next Monday at the Fox Room, if any of you are on social media or have any way to get the word out to residents, businesses, please share widely.
Bill, would you please post that meeting both on the town website and on our Facebook page?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
And I also just sent Bill forwarded him an email from the League of Cities and Towns. They had a press conference last week that was well attended by the press, with the league stating that they felt the state, and I agree, needs to step up all three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial.
This was the one in Montpelier. With Montpelier and Barry, and we didn't hear anything about it.
It
wasn't yours.
It was done through the board of directors. The league board.
Oh.
They tried to put it together pretty quickly.
Mayor
actually,
Lewis, you're sorry.
Dunges was there.
Dunges was there. You're
Yeah.
Mayor Lewis.
Mayor Dunges was there. Barry was represented. Rutland, Middlebury, Brattleboro was there.
Yes.
Burlington was not represented. They have their own infrastructure in place, their own plans in place, and felt that they, maybe working at cross purposes with themselves, and that's my interpretation, not theirs, if they would have showed up at that press conference.
Right.
They have put together a letter. They are also looking for communities to sign on to, and I can shoot that to Bill also in case it's something that Rutland Town would want to sign on to. It's a very, let's just say, Chittenden-centric perspective. So you may or may not find that, it serves the needs of Rutland Town to sign on to that. But what I did send to Bill is on this Thursday, the 26th, from 2 to 3 p.m. is a follow-up for the league and any of its members who want to join telephonically, whatever, Zoom teams, remotely. So you will have an opportunity to give some feedback to that and play a role. The league recognizes this is going to be a conversation going on into the legislative year, into the legislative session. So I shot that to Bill in case any of y'all want to attend that league follow-up meeting. It's 2 to 3 p.m. on the 26th.
Okay, I have a commitment at 3, but it's possible I could zoom in. I would encourage other folks to do it.
Yeah,
on the select board. They do need to hear from us because we got left out of the biggie in Montpelier and Barry.
And I can tell you, I was there, and I don't think you would have been disappointed with anything that was said.
I did see the news report. Yeah, and it looked like things were covered.
Yeah, on the news, I will tell you that as soon as the panel of municipal officials finished talking to the press at the press conference, they opened it up to questions, and the immediate questions from the press were followed up with, so what are you municipality is going to do about it? And it's like, and the response was, we just told you that for 15 minutes. What, we can't do anything about it because we don't run the judiciary to hold individuals accountable. We don't have the social services in small towns or large towns, except for Burlington, to put together their own real package. And the legislature clearly has been kicking the can down the road year after year. And the only impact they had this past year was an 1,100 cap for the number of rooms with the 80 days. And those are two things that the document from Burlington would like to see reversed. Just so that's why I shared that. You may not share the same perspective as Burlington did.
I think this demonstrates we have a different perspective.
Yes, and I do want to get to that real quick, and I apologize. When I ran off the packet of stuff, I just hit print and walked away, and it quickly ran out of black ink. So but the language, I will send you the electronic stuff, but these electronically, but if you had them before from 20 to 23, this information is updated for 2024. The language stays the same in the caption of each. Thank you. She's here to finish my brain. But what I want to bring up on this specifically is the first one that I gave you that's on top.
Yeah.
Know that this data all comes from the annual point in time report. That is due to
Which they
HUD.
didn't go to everybody. Let's clarify that.
What's that?
They did not go.
Of course, no, I was about to clarify that
Okay.
the point in time report has data gaps. To be nice, it's got some problems with its information. However, its information where it's bad has been consistently bad for decades. So it is the best thing we've got that shows year over year. Megan is trying to work with some providers so we can get the coordinated entry data from DCF through the state's contractor Institute for Community Alliances, so we can get more of a breakdown of that population. And we recognize that Tammy's on our list, you're on our list to get to, but right now, this has to do with the annual point in time report to demonstrate, frankly, what has happened to Rutland County as well as Wyndham and Washington counties.
So could you tell us what the
Sure.
lines mean? Yeah.
Let's start out with the lines mean. The bottom line is the top line, blue. You can see it way up top. It says statewide.
Yeah.
Those are the statewide numbers from the annual point in time report from 2014 to 2024. The data are collected in the first month of the year in January, all on the same night throughout the country. It's a HUD requirement. So in order for a state to avail itself of certain HUD funds, each state needs to compile the data.
And this
So-
is the homeless.
Yes, this is numbers of homeless individuals. So the blue line is the statewide numbers for 10 years. The gray line at the bottom is the Chittenden County Continuum of Care numbers. So Rutland is broken down by Chittenden County, The state of Vermont is broken down by Chittenden County and then the balance of the rest of the state. That's what you're seeing on this,
Well,
with
that's
no
really helpful.
individual breakdowns. It's all HUD needs.
Oh, because that's the
That's-
major metropolitan area, and the rest of us are.
We all are lumped together.
All right.
But as you can see, at COVID, the state as a whole, the blue line spiked and continued to go up at a pretty significant clip. The Chittenden County Continuum of Care numbers, you can see spiked up the first year, then relatively flatlined since 2021. Within the 2023, last January's point in time report executive summary, It stated, and I will read directly from it. So these are not my words. These are the words of the people who report the point in time, which are generally most of them who write this are are housed within Chittenden County, the organizations. And it says, the relatively smaller increase in persons experiencing homelessness in Chittenden County is likely due to the extremely tight market for hotel rooms in the county, Chittenden, which required people to relocate to shelter in other counties. It's nothing you folks don't know already. You know, you've been living the Cortina Inn. We get it. I walked through there last week. I can editorialize on my experience, but I'll choose not to. You've got Ed, you've got John Paul, you've got people here that have done that, so you don't need my take on it. But the reality is, just to say it out loud, which I'm sure y'all understand, is that because there was a dearth of hotel and motel owners in Chittenden County, and specifically within Burlington, to sign on in contract with the state for the voucher program, the disproportionate number of homeless people around the state was due to the fact that other hotel owners around the state, especially in Rutland, Windham County, Brattleboro, Washington County, Barry, each had property owners, hotel owners, who had one or more hotels. And with the extended families and the way the hotel systems work in Vermont at that level, they modified their business plan to get away from visitors, guests, tourists, and decided to avail themselves of the $135 a night for each room in the hotel, which was lowered to $80 a night this past spring. So what you see in this is that the difference between what happened in Chittenden County and the rest of the state is due to not enough hotels in Chittenden County chose to take advantage of the state's motel voucher program. And I can tell you the same is due in most other parts of the state. You know, Woodstock Inn did not sign up for the voucher program. Equinox Inn did not sign up for the program. Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe did not sign up for the voucher program. And Hotel Vermont, with its $500 a night, did not sign up for the program. So the state, because Vermont is a shelter first state, which means get the people to a roof over their head, and I'm not going to argue the viability of that type of system, but shelter first means without the commensurate services given to that community. So when Rutland County saw its numbers increase from right around 100 to 684, we saw no increase in services from the state. You know, either through resources to our designated agency, Rutland Mental Health, or to the Homeless Prevention Center, or to BROC, the three organizations that do most of this work. And also separately, the New Story Women's Shelter. They too did not see any further increases from the state. And that's why, you know, it feels like, I believe, the Rutland area is suffering so much, is not just because of the disproportionality of the homeless population that landed here, but the lack of services that came along with them. And that's specifically what the VLCT is trying to remedy.
What about DCF? And the
DCF
state services, did we get?
There was no increase to state services either through AHS, because AHS, most of their work is done through the providers, the service agencies in the county, and there was no increase in number of, if you will, state employees, DCF employees. Could they have chosen to send them from Chittenden County to Rutland to support the bigger numbers? Yeah, absolutely. That's, one thing I had mentioned to the mayor early on, was if he really wanted to try to push that, but I don't think the state would have responded, frankly, to moving their own resources around to follow the people that they put in the communities. So you'll see that increase in homelessness where it's Rutland County had a 610% increase. The state 218, Rutland 610, Wyndham 361, Bennington 321, Washington 229, and Chittenden County's increase sure was 162%, but it was less than the increase of the state as a whole, which was 218. So Chittenden County experienced less than their fair share of growth. Arithmetically, everyone should have seen a 218%. All counties should have seen a 218% increase, but they did not. Of greater impact, though, is the next one, increase in under 18 homelessness by county over the same time. And Rutland's numbers, again, they are through the roof, and we are experiencing the greatest number of homeless children in the state by far. I think it's numbers you folks may have been tracking as well. I look at it every.
Can't get the information.
Oh yeah, you can.
Well, okay.
It's posted. I don't know what you're talking.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the school is very careful.
Yeah.
They don't want to give out any information they can't.
I don't dispute that that's what you're up against with the schools, but the numbers for the state today, because it's updated daily. I'm sorry, I looked at it yesterday. 184 children in Rutland County who are in the coordinated entry program who are eligible for housing if it were to be available to them. 184 kids. I think you'll find between Rutland Town School and Rutland City School, my guess is 100 kids between the two are enrolled in the schools. So that means the others would be younger or otherwise, not enrolled. And that's why the mayor is looking and only looking, at a facility for a transitional housing facility with all the wraparound services, as Megan said, is the gold standard of what the community needs. And I've also stated that 10 years ago, there were 1,100 homeless people in the state of Vermont, and with the exception of someone, I would say the state did a really, really cruddy job managing the homeless population when there were only 1,100. And now we've got 3,400 without any increase in without any increase in the people who are working with those folks. So that's why I'll tell you outright, when the mayor approached me, I wouldn't have taken this task on unless two things happened. One, I would not have done this alone. Couldn't have, don't have the skills. And the second thing, the reason is he committed to trying to take care of the families and the kids. And that's where we're seeing the impact, I think, probably in the broader community. We're seeing the behaviors in downtown, the behaviors at Green Mountain Plaza, the behaviors at the Cortina and the other hotels, for sure, that do need to stop, and individuals need to be held accountable for their behaviors in the community. But where it's really going to further impact us is in the schools. And one more thing I want to talk, when Megan talked about the pipeline of the housing, there are clogs in the system. If someone is ready to move from a hotel into a transitional housing facility. The transitional housing facility, like the one on Pine Street in Rutland, may be totally full up and they can't get in there. And there are people in that facility who are ready to move on, but there's nowhere for them to go if they need a supported facility like a bridge. And then from there to get permanent housing, affordable permanent housing, there's not enough of that. So there are clogs along the way where individuals can't move up to another facility or into their own apartment because there's no room at the inn there either. There's no vacancies. So that's another type of thing that was discussed at the league press conference was figure out the housing, but stop with the hotel vouchers because every dollar that's put in the pocket of a hotel owner is one less dollar we can put into permanent housing in the state of Vermont. It's just, from my perspective, a nearly criminal activity that it's just a total waste of taxpayer money, especially because there's no services being provided to those people within the hotels. I think that's all I got. Sorry I was so long-winded on that. I'll get the updated electronic copy to Bill, and we just want to keep the lines of conversation open with you guys. If any of you want to contact Megan and or I directly, by all means, we'll give you our emails. Have you shared yours yet with the?
Well, we actually now have a
Rutland City one?
Yeah. So our email is HRC
for Homeless Response Coordinators
at rutlandcity.org.
City spelled out?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you want to take down my cell, it's 802-342-2468. And the reason I give that out is because I'm not exactly a rock star at email. And I prefer phone conversations and I prefer texting. So just know that if you want to reach out to me. But if you guys want to have smaller meetings, more intimate meetings, either one-on-one, if all five of you want to get together and have a discussion on some other evening about where we're going, what we're doing, that's fine too. You know, we're paid through the city of Rutland, but it's 100% state money.
Did you give all this to Gordon before he left?
Gordon got that
Long time ago.
2 weeks, not 2 weeks, whenever we were at the Board of Aldermen, he got that stuff at the Board of Aldermen.
Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
my concern,
Yes, ma'am.
like with the Loretta home, when you put a large number of folks in one area, you're warehousing.
And they become vulnerable. Yes.
That's right. My suggestion is that somebody is on staff 24/7 and that the troublemakers are given a warning. After the warning, they're told to leave. Because it's not fair for children to be in an environment where it becomes dangerous. And I've heard, I can remember when my kids were in school and you would hear kids talk about the kids in Forest Park, and they'd say, oh, they're the Forest Park group.
Yeah.
Stay away from them.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to change the behavior. You have to change the behavior of the state.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that behavior is not there. They don't understand homelessness. I'm not saying that everybody that's homeless is good people, because there's bad along with the good, but there are some good people that if I was a single mom now and I needed to rent an apartment, I couldn't afford it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Well, that's, I'll tee it up, then she can go. Part of the proposal around the Loretta home is that it would be purchased and owned by the Rutland Housing Trust, Mary Cohen's organization, and it would transition from transitional housing to permanent housing.
But there is no permanent housing in that.
No, what I'm saying, they would take that facility and turn it into additional permanent housing.
Okay.
So I appreciate and understand completely what you're saying about warehousing, and that's not the model. The model is to get the folks with wraparound services, the kids, to stabilize them, and then transition them into permanent housing, and then transition the facility when it's, if you will, run its course, into permanent housing as well.
Okay. And that's, part of the reason that I don't have a more meaningful update on the transitional housing facility tonight is because we are still looking for a backbone agency who has the experience and expertise in running a shelter. Because this project isn't.
Give me a call.
This project isn't.
I did it for 40 years.
I actually have sent an email to Tammy, and I need to follow up because I have not heard back yet. But we do want to get in touch with you and her and talk more about this facility and just about your experience and what you guys do in general.
Yeah, I mean, Chris knows. I've worked with Chris, and to be perfectly honest, Chris was the most recent mayor that would come down to the mission, that would bring his children down and would help serve meals and stuff, and would sit down and eat with these people. And that I respected of Chris, because he genuinely cared about people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it was where your dad was that way.
You think?
Yeah. Well, and I just want to be clear, that facility is not going to move forward without a backbone agency that can run that facility effectively, efficiently, and safely for everyone who would be living there.
Absolutely.
With the wraparound services, 24 hours a day.
Right. And that's what you need.
It's recognized.
Yeah, that's what you need, because when you don't have that, that's when the trouble starts. And I commend Kevin Loso up on Woodstock Avenue. He's done a great job there. And I don't think I've heard of any problems up there.
No.
So
Didn't even know it was there.
Yep. A couple of quick questions. Your report isn't due until April 2026.
And that the report.
How often do we hear, where you are and updates on what you're doing?
Frankly, as often as you want, but it'll likely be when we have anything significant to report out. And it really is it's a strategic plan.
Yeah.
So April of 2026 is, admittedly, Megan and I recognize that's not happening the now. So we've been trying to get into our brain what kind of recommendations can we make to the mayor now as we learn more and as Megan does her research. One thing, Megan, she did not give you her bio. She is a straight up school trained researcher, all but dissertation. So she's good. She's really good.
And what you're surveying, are you going to just rely on point in time for the number of homeless, or are you also?
No. Yeah, that's why we're trying to collect as much existing data as possible. The coordinated entry information will give us probably a better count of how many homeless individuals have been served by certain service providers. And, I'll also have a list from the vendor of who those service providers are, so we can have a better idea too of the breakdown between the municipalities. And, we're getting qualitative data too. So, Brenda Siegel from End Homelessness Vermont has done a bunch of interviews in other parts of the state, but also she says she has a lot of information, narratives from Rutland, from people living in the hotels and motels. We would pull in that data. And part of the other qualitative stuff that we'd be going in or going after is, even though we can get the coordinated entry numbers, we know that that doesn't tell the entire story, and that there's gaps in those numbers. There's gaps in the point in time, and that's why we're going around and speaking to the providers one-on-one, so we can learn about their experiences and have them fill in any gaps for us. If we look at the I went to the Rutland Continuum of Care meeting recently and was cautioned that if I am looking at the mental health, the number of people who reported having a mental health issue in their coordinated entry assessment, it might be lower than you would expect. And that's because oftentimes people with those mental health needs or who have mental health disorders may not get to that point in time in the assessment. They might not make it that far. And so that, that's something that the providers can tell me of, hey, I know you saw the data, but those numbers are underreported, or here's why I think they're wrong, or here's some additional context that you need to really understand what those numbers are saying. So we're going to be pulling in a lot of different sources to get the picture.
And just a couple that occurred to me for food. There's faith-based initiatives around. Are you tapping those?
Companions in Wholeness is, so.
And Wheels on Meals for elderly folks who
That's
might be
right.
homeless. Those, so you're getting that information as well. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what you touched on, the places where the system clogs because you can't move to the next level if there's not an apartment or there's not. Are you coming up with data on that, or is that beyond what your study is?
That's one of those areas that are in that other area category where we haven't quite got there yet. Some of the stuff like the transitional housing facility, there's, it's on a clock basically. So we have to, that's moved to the top of our list to focus on just based off the funding availability and the timeline for that. But we have been in talks with Josh Hanford at VLCT, what was his previous position?
He was the commissioner of housing and community development within ACCD, and he probably has, and he did that through this past spring, so he was intimately involved with all of the discussions around homelessness and housing, transitional housing programming through COVID. So he really is the gold standard for information.
Yeah. And at this point, we basically just had high level conversations with him about that information. We've talked to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. We know that they're working on a report related to housing, and there was just another report done by a state agency. It's 400 something pages. I haven't quite cracked into that yet, but on housing and housing plans statewide. So those are, kind of things that once we know whether this transitional housing facility is, if it doesn't go through, we'll be able to refocus efforts, but it's something that we're going to get to and would be included in the strategic plan. Any recommendations we could make around that, I don't know what that might be at this point in time. I think it's worth pointing out too that it's not just necessarily housing ability that's impacting those clogs. It's, somewhat of the policy, right? The voucher programs took away hotels. If there's no hotels, people who might have rented to say, hey, why don't I just Airbnb this out instead of renting it and make more money? And so there's, less apartments as a result of this. So it's going to be somewhat a review of policy related to housing in the state and how that's impacted municipalities. And certainly maybe diving into some of the rental landlord policies and see if there's any kind of impact, unintended consequences from some potential policies.
Eviction law.
Hmm?
Eviction law. That's
Yes.
100% why people are going to Airbnb.
Yeah, and I know what Josh was talking about, the push for the no cause evictions or something like that. But there's a lot of other things to consider too in places where those work successfully. I think he said New Hampshire as an example, they have a housing court, which is not something that exists here.
We've
So
talked about it.
yeah, okay,
The judiciary and the bar association has talked about that,
okay,
but we haven't gotten very far with it.
yeah. Well,
So right now, Rutland Town is dealing with people who are coming out of the Cortina and camping. And the Cortina is still there and housing a lot of homeless people. We want to be helpful. We want to do the right thing. But what can we do? Is there anything that we're not doing that we should be doing?
I don't know what type of tools you have in your toolbox regarding licensing of the establishments.
Mhm.
If Cortina changes their model again and chooses to rent out to individuals, even if they're not getting any state money, and say drop the monthly rent is, or nightly rent is $40 a month, they will become, as with if any other places in Rutland do the same, they will formally become hotels again.
Right.
And that just needs to pass a straight face test that they are operating as hotels and fall under those licensing provisions, at least at the state level. I don't know what you guys have in your toolbox as far as that's concerned.
Well, we've been talking about that. Yeah.
We're gonna be dealing with the same people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even from all the places in Rutland town, it's
Should
not like.
click on the AC, please.
Exactly.
All those hotels are located near the town border.
Mhm.
We're talking well over 100 people that we have to do it. I spend all my time, all of it. That's what we do.
Oh, and the city is clearly, in the same, the reason I don't mention the quality is because the Cortina and the behaviors around the Cortina, I don't want to minimize what you guys are going through by starting to talk about, and look what the city has to put up with. No, if we're going to talk about the place that's having some of the worst impact in the county, we've got to talk the Cortina specifically, but yes, the other hotels near the Cortina have the same challenges.
Mhm.
But as we keep going and come up with possible solutions that we provide to the mayor, that, as we have with the charter that the city has, I don't know what I don't know. So Megan and I will be sharing with you what we learn along the way.
Well, we have an interesting hook that most places don't, and that is that the Cortina has an Act 250 permit, and we're a statutory party. So what we have been able to negotiate with them is basically a settlement, because they don't have an Act 250 permit to run a homeless shelter. They have it to run a motel. And that's where we had some leverage to go in and negotiate the agreement that we have with them.
That explains when I was looking at your bulletin board about your fundings, and one of them was the Cortina settlement.
Yes.
So I got that. Now I understand.
So
Thank you.
other folks don't have that, but that's the tool in our toolbox that we have used. But,
Problem is that one settlement doesn't
yep.
stop what Ed has to deal with.
Correct.
All it does is it allows us to fund our PD to a level that they can stand, but they're stretched beyond their limits.
Mhm.
So it doesn't stop what's going on down there. It just makes it, the town residents aren't paying for what our PD has to do. Let's put it that way. But it's not stopping the problem.
And I can tell you one thing that's different now. We all dealt with collectively, and we're still dealing with the fallout of the opioid crisis from 10 years ago. And I can tell you that it's not lost on me, and it's not lost on individuals I talk to, that the behaviors now we're seeing with the homelessness, with that layer added on top, are totally different behaviors that we've seen from people 10 years ago. And that's going to be one of the bigger challenges we have as a community, the Rutland community is how to hold the individuals accountable for things they're doing, whether it's a breaking a criminal law or just acting in ways that do not subscribe to the norms of and standards of the community. And I think we've seen an example of individuals who are down on their luck still being held accountable down on Park Street. Because that's not the type of thing we're seeing from the other individuals. So if anyone here has any ideas that you can give us feedback on how to better, as a community, manage the behaviors of these people who are creating the chaos.
Well, it was managing the behavior of the agencies that fund the program. So we gave a copy of our contract with the Cortina to Chris Winters, and when they were here in June, and the deputy of the agency at that time,
Miranda Gray.
She was on the Zoom call,
okay.
But the deputy commissioner was here.
Yep.
And there are things in there that we require of the Cortina, like security, like background checks, like no persons on the sex offender registry being employees. And we recommended that the state, if they're going to be shelling out this money to the motels and hotels, that they have a contract and these things be in the contract. And from what we learned the last time, 2 meetings ago, Chris Winters was in, and no, they don't have a contract. And that's not what they're doing. They're just applying for rooms. So
warehousing.
What we had as a contract, and we do have.
Yeah.
We're out there by ourselves trying to figure out what to enforce and what to write to the Cortina about. And we got no help from the state because they're just pouring the money into it.
Can we have a copy of that at some point?
Yeah, I don't have an extra one with
No,
me.
just
I had been
don't worry
carrying
about
around
it.
copies, you know?
If you green light it, I can go find it.
Yes.
I can, I can stop by during the week and on my way to frickin' chicken.
Yes, please. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I've talked way too much.
Well, the other thing the
Yeah.
state has done too, is they have taken away any authority that our health officer has. They do not. So we need to, as a town, adopt an ordinance that empowers our health officer, JP, to do what he's supposed to be doing and have some backbone behind it. So we're in that process because the state basically told him, you can't do what you're supposed to do because we're not going to allow, it's totally ridiculous the way this is working right now. So they'll push it onto us and we've accepted the challenge.
So,
Very
well,
simple.
we'll have an update on
Good.
that later. Yeah,
They changed the rules again.
they changed the rules again.
They changed the rules.
And you saw that the state sent their inspectors down and went room by room in the Cortina.
I did.
And they are now under requirement within 30 days to fix the
Did we get our
deficiencies that
copy?
were found. We got a summary. We did not get a room by room copy.
See, and it's unacceptable.
So
It's unacceptable. It's our town. It's our problem. We need to know what's going on.
we can get that. What?
It had the detail every room they went into.
Does?
Did it? Okay. Well, I thought
There's two different attachments.
okay. Good. All right.
You gotta forward that along, Chris, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's right there.
And
Okay.
one more thing to dump on you before we leave. Can you think of any organization that you may have not heard us allude to or mention? Just as you said, get on with the Meals on Wheels and the companions. If not tonight, anytime any of y'all individually as a group come up with, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? We are looking for people who know the community to tell us, who else would be a good individual.
Well, Matt and I are both in Rutland Rotary South, and Mary Cohen's in Rutland Rotary South, so we get information quite often. And there's a group if you ever want to come in and talk to us.
I think, is that Carolyn Crowley Mubes?
Yes.
I screwed up. I missed my coffee with her this week and she has invited us, I forgot to tell you,
Okay, good.
to Rotary South sometime in October.
Good.
And we'll go there.
Good.
So yes, I know that's an active group. So thank you for reinforcing that with Rotary.
All right.
All right.
There's
Thank you
nothing
so
else
much.
from the select board. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate
Roger
it.
that.
Thank you.
You folks have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take care, Chris.
Full of
We're gonna
stuff.
try our best.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we kind of took some things based upon the people who were here, and are there any questions from the floor or public comments? And I'm looking at the screen and I don't. Is there anyone who wishes to address us on items that are not otherwise on the agenda?
Got one.
Yes, okay. David Rosenblum, who is our delegate to the Rutland Regional Commission, handed us a memo that indicates he has just learned that the Rutland Regional Planning Commission dues will be increasing from $1,000 per town to a per capita basis, which would put ours in at $1 per person. So our increase would go to by $3,000, and we would be paying $4,000 for membership in Rutland Regional Planning Commission. That's big, and I guess we haven't budgeted for that. We budgeted for $2,000. And I guess my question is, when does this schedule take effect?
Was not clear.
Okay.
There was a motion made and adopted to do that. When it goes into effect, I don't know. The other thing that wasn't clear, I got the impression this was instigated by the state, somebody in the state, and because Rutland County is the only planning commission, or one of the few, there may be one or two others that had a flat fee. All the other planning commissions did it on a per capita basis, so that's where that came out. There was some suggestion to, at least for the first year, not do it for less than $1. That didn't get anywhere.
Sounds all right.
And in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure the $4,000, given the whole town budget, is statistically significant. But the increases.
Well, the thing is, we budgeted for this amount, and it's budget time coming up again for a budget that we'll vote on in March and will take effect next July 1st. So if the increase is coming for that fiscal year, we get it. But if it's sooner than that, we haven't budgeted for it, nor, I'm willing to bet, have any of the other towns either. So this should not be taking effect until July 1st, 2025.
I will take that back. That's one reason I come to the meetings if you want something to get back. Increase, not. That's July
1st.
Of 2025.
2025.
The other question is, what's their increase on their budget going to be from this shift, or is it a washing game, or is this going to come out into a big increase in their budget?
Well, that was the other thing that bothered me, and the dues that the towns pay are 3% of the planning commission, the regional planning commission budget. The rest of the money comes in through grants and state funds, et cetera, et cetera. And my question was to director Devin, I said, what happens if the town doesn't pay? Do they still get services? Well, it used to be, and I think, Mayor, you might remember, if you didn't pay, you didn't get services. But, they probably still get the services.
Don't tell us that.
I walked out of there scratching my head. And this was about a 40-minute discussion on the dues, which made up 3% of the budget.
Yeah. And we do contract for various services from the Regional Planning Commission too, for JP Sidewalk, right? Yeah, for example. So, I mean, we're not questioning the value of the services. We're questioning this timing thing. Or at least I am. Other people might be
That's
questioning.
significant.
Yeah.
The timing issue is the issue.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, I don't know what you think about
What's
giving the whole budget to $4,000, whether that's.
Well, so I was curious if that dollar per capita is actually reflective on their, that total line item in their budget, and they're just moving their money around, or if they just chose a number and they're going to take the money.
It's not a real clear answer. Like I said, somebody made the suggestion that it'd be 50 cents per capita for the first year. That just happened.
That's a good point, because they've already budgeted for their fiscal year too. So they can't get extra income.
They must have a budget, but
Yeah.
Is this $1 per capita? Are they shifting money from towns with smaller populations and bigger populations that it comes out to the same, or are they going to get all this much more money in that?
They're going to get more money.
Yeah,
They have the same fiscal
But
year.
it's not that significant.
They've already
amount,
passed their budget.
given their whole
I don't know. I
budget.
think they are.
Yeah, but you add up all these towns, it's got to be a significant amount of money.
Hey, and do we get more representation on the board because we're paying more?
Let's not go there. But that budget item is significant.
Yeah.
And also, this came up on Saturday. We didn't for the September meeting last week. We didn't meet all summer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this must have been generated while there was no meeting.
All right.
I mean, it's not a significant increase, but everything's an increase is an increase,
Significant increase percentage wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Now, what
In terms of town budget, it's not huge,
happened-
but
Yeah.
it all adds up.
Yeah, but what happened in Killington with Act 60? Before Act 60, our taxes were like minimal. There was second homes, not a lot of services. Act 60 came in, the taxes skyrocketed. Now, when our municipal rate, which was very low, we wanted to add a couple cents to that municipal rate to do it. No, it got voted down because it was a tax increase and it appeared on the same bill. So
Yeah.
the emotional response to this is different than the economic response.
That's right. So we are charged per capita by CEDAR, the Chamber and Economic Development, but that's a separate ballot item. And so if the regional commission were a separate ballot item, which they're not, they're built into our budget, they would be taking the chance of being voted down. So anyway.
So you're saying it's not a.
So I'm saying that we're charged $1 per head by CEDAR, the Chamber and Economic Development. That's how they bill us. But the voters vote on that as a separate ballot item, a separate appropriation. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
What other reason do you need?
That's the flat rate on the Regional Planning Commission. It's always been that way.
There you go. There you go. So anyway, it's the timing thing right now, really. Any other good news for us, David?
After that discussion at the Regional Planning Commission, I don't remember what else happened. Now, there were some Act 250 reviews. There was a vote to make another committee, a Brownfields Committee, to review Brownfield. Then, afterwards, the other day I got to thinking, there's a a regional affairs committee and a community affairs committee. And I sit on the regional affairs committee. We haven't had a whole lot to do. What do we need another committee for the brownfields? Let's give it to one of the other committees. But I'll take that back. That's internal.
It is possible, based upon what we heard tonight earlier, this very large Act 250 project up at Diamond Run Mall. There may be some, the regional commission is going to be asked about regional impact. And just trying to remember some of the previous discussions, there could well be people petitioning the regional commission to take a position one way or another. So just keep an ear out for that if you can, please.
The Act 250 will come before the regional.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And this may be one we have something. Most of them we take no action.
Yeah.
Well, this is one that they should take no action on. This is something we need in this community.
Oh,
So
this is no question. One of the things that's sitting back there, one of the things that struck me when he was talking about, Joe Anthony was talking about the other developments where the construction companies came in and took all the hotel rooms. That may solve our Cortina problem.
There's the ready market that they need to move out of.
That may solve it.
yeah, looking at the inspection report, I don't know how many construction
You're gonna
workers
have
are
to
going to
hire
stay
those
in it.
Construction workers to rehab
may
it.
be staying there to fix it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me about that development is an irony there. Because Walmart is now where Kmart used to be. Kmart moved down to the Diamond Run Mall, and now Walmart is moving down to the Diamond Run Mall. They have better success.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your input and for serving as our rep there. Okay. All right. So if anyone's still with us, and I apologize to our long-suffering department heads and the folks who had zoomed in. I hope the information was useful. I know some of you are, will be impacted both by the Act 250 proposed project and by the homelessness report. So I hope you can look at it that way. So Marcia Chioffi, Town Head Lister.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Exciting news for Rutland Town, that's for sure. And also exciting news for the Lister's office. Looks like we're going to have a busy few years coming up, for sure. So I really don't have anything new to report from the Lister's office per se. Kathy has joined our group, and she has been a welcome asset to our group. She's asking all the right questions, and we are steering her in the right direction to watch some of the webinars and so forth. But the only other thing is I didn't know whether you had any further questions about the errors and omissions form that we had presented to you.
Okay, we do have in front of us the request of the listers to approve the completed errors and omissions form with respect to one property owner. This is an amendment to the listed value of the property following the process of grievance. So is there, and this is for, it's Hollerick?
Yes, Melissa
Yeah,
Hollerick.
I don't have a property address, but we do have, that's okay. We know who it is, and we've got the span number is on here.
Yeah,
So is there any?
195 Windridge.
Okay. Thank you. So is there any motion? And it appears, Marcia, it appears that there's one place where the chair of the board signs, and then the errors and omissions certificate is signed by each member of the select board?
No.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, Mary, but I think
No, it's
because
the
Marie and I
signature
were
left.
the only ones that were involved at the time,
And this-
then I think Marie and
I
I
guess we all
signed
have
the
to sign
errors
it,
and
too.
omissions form.
Yeah, we all signed.
Yeah, we get the right side.
Yep.
Okay.
We signed all right.
You get to sign in the front. You get to sign twice.
Well, that's if somebody makes a motion.
I move that we approve the errors and omission as presented to us by the listers.
Okay,
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Any discussion or questions further for Marcia? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Anyone opposed? No one's opposed.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Signing it. Thank you, Marcia.
I have a different question.
Oh, wait, Matt has a question.
Yep.
Yeah, Marcia, just wondering if you have any update on paperwork that you were working on for the, I guess it was an RFP for reappraisal services.
No, not at this time.
So does that mean it's still in process, or are you waiting on anything from the state, or can you
Well,
elaborate?
both. Still in process. We're waiting for a mandate from the state, which will not come down until, once again, next year. Not until next year.
So your position then now is that you will not do anything on it until there is a mandate?
Not necessarily. I mean, we're putting together the, request for quotation. However, due to the fact that we have not been given a mandate from the state to reappraise, we're kind of the tail wagging the dog. We're not up there. And as I have told you before, in fact, I spoke to one of our representatives from Nimerick today, asking him, what was happening with the reappraisal process, and it's still going out to 2029, and they will not even give us a quote. That is Nimerick. I don't know about the others, but they cannot hold the prices that they may quote today going forward 5 years.
Oh.
So I guess I'm still wondering why we wouldn't want to get in line with somebody as soon as possible.
Well, because anyone that's been mandated to reappraise would jump ahead of us. We would not be in that same line. We have not had a mandate from the state to reappraise.
I understand that, but I guess it seems, I don't know how much difference it would ultimately make, but it seems like if we were already in the queue before we got a mandate, that would be faster than if we waited until we got a mandate and we're competing with whichever other towns got the mandate at the same time.
Well, and as I told you, Matt, right now, they will not even give us a quote to hold pricing, which is out to 2029.
That's part of what you need for the paperwork, is the quote from the vendors to give to the state before the state approves?
Correct.
Okay.
Could we do something as simple as just sending a letter to the state saying, put us in the line?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, Mary, it's not that easy.
Too
I wish it
simple.
were.
They already have their list.
I wish it were, but
State already has their list.
Can you,
Yep.
I wonder if, can you just survey some of the other vendors and see what their situations are? I imagine they're all booked, but
well, they
if you
are.
recall, there was somebody that was new to the market that maybe is less booked. but
No,
it would just-
we can only send out requests for quotation to the approved list. That's it.
Right, but there was a
list.
new member on that list. But okay.
Anything
Wait and see.
else? Anything else for Marcia?
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good
Night,
night.
Marcia.
All right. Chris Clark, Town Fire Chief.
Not much tonight. We did our annual pump testing last Sunday. Everything
passed. We had one little minor thing with the relief valve on one of the trucks that the guy's going to come back and fix. But other than that, everything else went well. And really nothing else to report tonight unless you have a question.
Okay. Question from select board members. They're all quiet. So thank you for your patience waiting.
No problem.
I think we're done. Thanks.
I do have one question for the building, but I can wait. I'm not sure if JP's there or not, but I can wait till it's his turn.
He's zooming in, and yes, please. It would be good if you stayed on for that. Okay.
All right. Will do.
Kari Clerk, town clerk and treasurer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Couple things. So I do have a percentage of our first tax installment this year. It looks like we were able to collect about 97% of our first installment. That's pretty average for us. We hover around 97, 98% for each installment. And I wanted to speak very briefly about the November election. We're getting a ton of phone calls. It seems as though not everyone is aware of how this election is going to go. I did notice that on WCAX this morning as well. Other town clerks are finding that voters are not understanding what's happening. So let me just briefly go over that so that people can hear. It is going to be in the circle as well. So if you receive that, it's in writing. But all active voters are getting sent a ballot, and that is the state of Vermont that's sending those out. So that was, I think something passed a little bit ago where the general election is going to be handled that way. So they pulled the addresses for all active voters back on September 2nd. So if you were to log into my voter page, you will see that your ballot was issued on the 3rd because they pulled it in midnight of the 2nd. So whatever your address was at that point, that's where your ballot is being sent. And much like other elections that this has happened, of course, there's going to be changes.
Kari, you've been cut off.
Uh-oh.
Yep, the screen went blank too. So, Kari's. Could you? Okay, back again.
You can hear me now?
You lost?
Yep.
Yeah, you do keep going off and on.
I'll do my best. So they pulled the addresses. So basically you're going to be seeing your ballot, if you're an active voter, come to you within the next couple of weeks. If you don't receive it, give your town clerk, which would be me, a phone call. We do have some ballots that were sent to us to send out to people that are new or have claimed that they did not get their ballot. In cases such as that, you will have to sign an affidavit claiming that you are only voting once and that your participation is not elsewhere in our system. So a lot of people didn't know that they were getting their ballots. So this is my public service announcement that yes, you are getting your ballots. You can choose to mail them back in or bring them to the polling place in the November election, which is about 6 weeks away. So we will have sample ballots up on our social media and posted at the town hall probably by the end of this week. So that was my quick election information, tax information, and in your orders tonight that you signed, there is the first installment to the school because of our taxes are over now. I did get the first cash flow from the school, and it looks like, I'm sorry, from the state, for the school, and it looks like we might be paying the state once again, twice a year this year, which was figured into our taxes as they do up in Montpelier. So the last couple of years we have not been paying the state, but it looks like we might have to this year. For whatever reason, it ends up being the non-homestead and the homestead configuration that they do up there. So those are the two things that I have for you. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, good news on the taxes. Thank you all of the taxpayers who sent in their first of 3 installments. And thanks, Kari, for, I know it's a massive amount of work every time the taxes are due, so we appreciate what you folks do there. And thank you for the heads up. And Bill, I'm wondering if we could put something on the town webpage and possibly the Facebook page, just reminding people that ballots will be mailed to them for the general election.
Post that too.
Pardon?
Carries access to post everything too. So
Okay, between the two of you, please make sure something shows up there.
will do.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our town? We had intended that Kari and the auditor and Matt and I, as the finance committee, would be meeting last week to go over what's in the capital improvement fund. Unfortunately, our town auditor got COVID, so we couldn't meet last week. So the 4 of us will be meeting tomorrow, and we should have information for the rest of the select board at our next select board meeting. So in case you were wondering where that was, that's what happened. Best of all intentions. All right. Okay, thank you, Kari.
Welcome.
All right, Mike Delehanty, Town First Constable, not on this evening. Ed Dumas, Town Police Chief. Good evening. Thanks for staying around.
You're welcome.
I hope the information was useful.
Yeah, it was good information.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. All of it. So a few things just to go record. I'll get it's not the end of the month, so next time we'll have that hopefully. Most recent thing, Home Depot issues. I've been getting calls from the leasing company that owns the land that Home Depot actually leases from. We got the language on their lease agreement. I've been talking with the leasing company because it was like 3 or 4 campers up there most of the summer. And because they own the property, we as the town aren't going to tow stuff off their personal property. We can assist them anyway, trespass notices, whatnot, but I don't even know if we would even be able to get a charge. If I charge them, if it would even be pursued at this point in time, the way things are. But finally, a lady who works for the leasing company got a hold of somebody at Home Depot, filed a formal complaint, and I got a call from the legal department out of Georgia for Home Depot this afternoon. And lady was very helpful. She says they've spoken to a local record service, and they're making arrangements that the 10 campers that are taking up residency there are probably going to have a choice to either leave or on their own, or they'll be towed. And the local record company, whoever it is, they will take and they will get paid by Home Depot to take care of this issue. So that issue should go away, I suspect, probably by the end of the week, if not starting tomorrow.
Well, it's going to go away from Home Depot, but we don't know where it's going to show up again.
Well, they did mention a few places in the town that were kind of abandoned. I said, I don't think you're not allowed there, but I didn't go into any more. I did confront them. They were less than friendly. Probably I wasn't too friendly either, but they demanded that I do my job to protect and serve, and the town should find them a place to stay.
Oh, well, tell them we're working on it. We keep having.
I did say I was not the camping police. I couldn't really have them where they could go.
Tell them state lands.
I might have mentioned that.
See what they do with it.
Some nice
So-
parks in Chittenden County.
Yeah. This comment was from Home Depot or the people that are camping?
This is the people that are camping at Home Depot. There's been several complaints from the Asian restaurant up there. I think Big Lots is going out, so they're not much help at all. Other issues, but they finally seen the light. They're gonna take care of the problem because the leasing company is not happy with them. So that's that.
We need to be cautious about what the town does on behalf of private property owners because
All I
if
do
we
is
wade into this too far, everyone who has a camper show up is going to be calling and expecting the town to do something. And
Correct.
I don't think we can do that.
I tell everybody it's on you. It's your private property. We are, for every other business or even landowners or whatever, we told them to post their property, but we in the past have gone up to people. Here's a trespass notice, you're not allowed here. We serve it. Doesn't have our letterhead on it. Doesn't say town police. It's a generic one that they can get offline and we will serve it for them.
Okay.
Because they don't feel safe or whatever. They don't want to confront these people. And we've done that.
Okay.
That's the extent of what we do.
Okay.
I am not obligating us to tow or do anything at this
Okay.
point. That is on them. That's individual.
Do they ask for security for the towing operation?
Correct. That would be, we want to keep the peace no matter what.
So they're gonna leave one way or the other, either on their own or on a record.
Correct. I've told them all that. Most of them were nice. The latest ones that moved in are from the Cortina. So
Because they got booted out of there.
their vouchers ran out, so they have no place to stay at this point in time. So they bought a camper and yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, state parks seem like a good idea.
Yep.
The other,
Getting ready to close up for the season.
That's right. They have room.
Park in there.
In Montpelier on the State House.
Yeah.
Excellent idea.
I might donate towards the record
Hey,
bill.
you know,
I would.
my office is just up there, so it's not.
It's okay. When they start showing up there and parking out front, then maybe somebody.
I say we send them to Woodstock in Manchester.
Well,
Well,
Other,
there's no sense in imposing the burden on them. We should impose the burden on the folks that need to solve the problem.
yeah.
And that's the legislation, and that's these people making these
Could we
rules.
get a list of their home lots and
Back them on their
The
front
home
lawns.
stuff I don't want to do. Absolutely not. No. But state land.
Anyway, go ahead.
the other thing, Ted brought up to me, he said he was going to be here today, but he has a sick child, so he wasn't able to come in today. Is there the thing as far as Beamer's Group D, he sent me language in a text that he's dealing with Beamer's company that says they need to put in the language for the minutes, moves to offer the higher Beamer's Group D plan to the sworn officers of the Rutland Town Police, including the police chief and the deputy police chief, effective July 1st, 2025. Current eligible employees will have the option to change to Group D effective 7/1/2025. Any eligible employees hired after the date of this vote will automatically be in Group D as of 7/1/2025. It's something they just wanted in the minutes. The Beamer's.
We voted. We
So-
voted a month ago.
So move.
Second.
Oh, okay.
I think they
That's
need the
good.
right language.
They just need the right language. That's it.
Okay, you have the language in mind. Motion's
forwarded
been-
the- I
been
forwarded
made
the-
And seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Hopefully you can hear that.
Okay. We'll get it. All right. No discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay. Next time it'd be really good to get the right language from
Yes.
Beamer's early.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we'll come in next time.
Yeah.
But, the other thing on a lighter note, last Thursday, I think it was, I felt what it was like to be a fireman just for a second. We had a situation back at Dick's where 3 kittens had fallen down into one of the drains that was welded shut and we couldn't get it. I called RJ Amman with the Green Mountain Plaza Company. He got a hold of Casellas. They sent a guy up. He smashed open the covers. 1 drowned, but I got into a manhole and saved 2 of them. And then Dave Sears with a company come up where the with a camera that we had bought and
Yeah.
purchased. And when one of the poles found a third kitten, we got all three of them out. So now
Oh.
I did get wet a little bit. One leg had to go. To the oh, and everybody was a hero for just a little while. So that was pretty awesome.
Wonderful. So,
So
well,
make sure you get them one of the fire helmets.
Yeah.
The little plastic ones.
What I say is pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't think.
Yeah.
did anybody get pictures?
We need a picture of that.
No.
Kittens.
No, I don't know. Maybe they did. I didn't ask.
That's, well,
Police
wonderful
chief
work.
crawling out of a manhole.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And do you sense that people now like the police as much as the fire
I
department?
doubt it.
They should.
They really
They
should.
only knew.
Okay.
That's all I have at this point.
All right. Any questions for our chief of police?
You got a body cam on that?
I
got nothing?
I didn't turn it on.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't.
I'm sure Dave
Any-
has some incriminating pictures.
Any
He may.
comments on the two long discussions, one on the new plans at the Diamond Run and the other folks on the homeless? Did you have any thoughts or comments?
I know they said they have the state of the art stuff as far as loss prevention. If it's anything like what they have in the Rutland office or Rutland store that I'm acquainted with when I worked for the city, it's less than adequate. The biggest thing nowadays is because there's such an influx of strangers coming into our community, 610 actually, now that we know a number, 680 or something like that. The problem is they'll have a problem issue in another town and they have no place. They'll kick them out, but the hotel owners all talk to each other. Well, I got a spot here in Rutland. They'll send them up here. So then I got to spend 2 or 3 weeks person stealing over and over and over again before we can finally figure out who this person is to ID them so we can charge them with a crime of retail theft. Meantime, they've done this, 10, 15 times. If they do not have the camera systems that they need, somebody man them 24/7, as long as the store is open, we're just going to be chasing our tails like I am right now. We need more officers. I mean, I'd like maybe the tax run would be enough to get another officer. I mean, it's a lot to ask of the town, but if we have to go up there, the sheriff was up there full time at the other Diamond Mall. I can see needing somebody up there, at least one, is when they're open from morning, maybe not early morning, maybe 10 to closing.
Well, the perpetrators are going to work around when they're there. So you either got to vary the time or you got to be there all the time.
Right.
These people are put.
Right.
So, what I was thinking is that maybe if you had some thoughts or concerns, you get them to us and we'll make sure they get them forwarded. I didn't want to bring it up in the discussion.
I didn't either.
But I thought that with what's going on across the road, if that doesn't go away 2 years from now or 3 years from now when this place opens, they're just going to be behind. They're going to be they're going to be behind the 8 ball right off. So
First off, with law enforcement present, even in the parking lots, people feel safer. Oh, the police are here. They have a problem, we're right there.
Yeah.
If they have an issue inside the store, we can address it there. If they have an issue outside the store, we can address it there. As you know, the Diamond Run Mall, just before it closed, they had a murder up there. 2 men were fighting over some girl and one of them got stabbed to death. I mean, these are things that happen when we have large groups of people together. As much as we hate to see it happen, it does happen. But if there's law enforcement present, it moves it away from that area. It's just not as prevalent if we're there. So
yeah, I just thought
the
that,
broken window theory. If you fix a broken window and keep it fixed, they'll stop breaking them. If we're always there, they will go someplace else. They won't be there.
I'm hoping by the time they open, what's going on across the road will be gone. But I'm not holding my breath.
And the other gentleman talked about the fact that he doesn't let the local security company do that much. Well, they can't do that much. They just can't. They don't have the authority to do it. Simple.
So, well, thank you. We'll keep an eye on that. The original permit said Sheriff's Department, and the sheriff did have an office right at the mall.
They did.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be good if we were there. We had another officer. I mean,
That might be a thing that
But
we say to them.
if they want to pay
Pay for
the
another
sheriff's
officer.
department
Well,
the cost of an officer, they can pay
anything is
Rutland Town the
possible.
cost of an
And,
officer.
these are the impact things that we have to look
Right.
for throughout the process.
Right.
And if that means contributing toward
I think
policing,
between the property taxes that's going to be generated from that building plus the options tax, it's our duty to supply them with that.
And if they wanna, but if they wanna agree, you know, if they wanna honor that original part where the sheriff's department was there was a cost involved. And if they wanna put that cost toward us hiring an officer and maybe a part-time officer and we pick up the rest, cause obviously I don't, you know, what the cost of having a sheriff's department detail there would be, that would be great.
The reason why the mall had that sheriff stipulation is because we didn't have a police department at the time to patrol it.
Right.
We have a police department now, and these businesses are paying their taxes, and we're getting revenue from them, and it's up to the municipality to offer them services.
But we are asked, and we are a statutory party to Act 250, we are asked if this will unduly burden any one of our town's services, including the police department. So if they don't have proper security cameras and they don't have any plan to have anybody there, then we can weigh in on that issue because we're going to be getting.
I'm sure their security systems, they'd be more than
well, let's see what they
willing to
come up
work
with.
with us.
Yeah, I think they will.
An unduly burden
right
is relative to the income that the town's going to receive from that business.
And that's part of the weighing process, the 250.
Yes.
We'll see what they want to offer
Entirely
too.
an evil process.
It is an evil process.
But the thing with it is, you know, if you sit down with them and tell them, look, this is what's going on. This is what we think you need. We know, you know, you're going to help, but if they're bound by paying somebody through Act 250, which was part of that, they may be willing to work with us, you know, maybe provide the office and everything we need there. And, you know, we just install somebody. I don't know, but it's things to talk about to try to get ahead of what I see for the problems if the other stuff doesn't go away.
Matt, did you have something?
Tax question, I'll ask you later. I don't need to get any further into the weeds of the history tonight, I guess.
Okay.
It might.
All right. So if that's it for the chief.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
A nice rescue. Sorry about no pictures.
All the employees of Dick stuff went home.
John Paul Faignant, Town Health Officer, Public Safety Building Clerk, and Second Constable. Thanks for your patience, JP.
Somebody's got to poke him.
Probably did.
Probably did.
Uh-huh.
Bill's doing his electronic nudge.
Come on, JP, wake up.
Which one is he?
Oh, it's happened twice. I'm not really sure why, but.
Oh, here he goes.
Is he on?
Nope.
Hang on a second. I'll wake him up.
He unmuted, but not hearing
Or
anything.
did Bill unmute?
No, I can't unmute him.
Okay.
Ask him to, but I can't do it.
Maybe he needs to unmute the phone also because he called in on the phone.
Is that why I called in?
Oh.
If you hear a phone ringing, it'll be me.
JP, if you're trying to talk to us, we can't hear you. So you might have to unmute your phone. All right.
Maybe he'll come back.
Wait a minute. Are you sleeping?
No, I'm talking to you guys on the screen. You're just not hearing me.
No, we're not.
Hearing aids in.
I've got my hearing aids in, mister.
You're not lighting up for some reason.
You're not coming through, John.
Yeah, I'm on the phone,
Okay.
and I don't know why you can't hear me on the speaker. Maybe I should get off the computer, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to leave you on speaker on my phone?
We can hear.
Yeah, if everybody can hear.
Yeah.
We can hear you okay.
Well, they knew your
I'm
microphone.
going to get off
What?
this.
Hold it
Stay
in
on
your
the phone.
microphone so it will pick up everything.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
You just put it down.
Hang on for just a minute, guys.
I'm
I know how
hanging.
to fix this.
Hanging.
You got the
Okay, can you
volume
hear
all
me
the way
now?
up, Sharon?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we
can hear
can.
you now.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
explaining that we did have some leverage in that Home Depot situation that we were kind of bringing to fruition. And so I'm really happy that Home Depot decided on their own to step forward, because after analyzing the agreements for the property and our public nuisance ordinance, it was clear to me that it is a landowner responsibility in addition to a tenant responsibility under our ordinance. But hopefully we don't have to use this information any further. The other thing I need to cover with you is the server racks for the building. We really need to get those ordered, because that's going to cause a real delay. So I was hoping you'd authorize that tonight to move forward with the ordering of those.
So just a quick update. I don't know if you caught the part. It was our intention to have that finance committee meeting, which we agreed at the same meeting you were at, to have that before we move forward with the spending the $33,000. We were supposed to have it last week, but our auditor came down with COVID, so he couldn't meet. So we're going to have it tomorrow.
But Mary, this is not optional stuff. I mean, if we have the meeting tomorrow, it doesn't get in the pay cycle for another 2 weeks.
Yes. Can I finish, please? I also checked with Bill to see how much the cost of these particular racks were, to see if, how big the expenditure would be. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that each rack costs $900. So it's a total cost of $1,800, one for the police, one for the fire. Does that sound about right?
Whatever Bill's figures are, I'd go with.
Okay. Did I get it right? Okay. So, we did, and I will say that we did get Matt and I got some figures preliminarily from the auditor. We're very close, all right, on having used up the capital fund, but we're not we're very close. So we need to be very careful on what we spend. If you want to take this particular item up out of order, and not wait 2 weeks until we can report on the
I'm okay
finance
with it.
committee. It sounds like an expenditure of $1,800 to get the racks installed. Is there any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Chris, was this what you wanted to weigh in on? Chris Clark?
It wasn't for the racks. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't to spend any money either.
Oh, okay. So
Good news.
All right. So motion's been made and seconded to expend not more than $1,800 for the 2 racks for the public safety building, 1 police server, 1 for the fire server. Any further discussion?
I have a problem with the not to exceed in case they've gone up or there's going to be shipping or something like that. So could you do approximately 1,800? Give them some wiggle room.
Yep.
Okay, the maker of the motion and the seconder both say that that's acceptable amendment. So that's the motion then. Around 1,800.
Great, thank you.
And I'm not sure where it's coming from.
I'll move. Yeah.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
So the other issue that is going to need your consideration is on your desk tonight's a vicious dog complaint.
Oh, yeah.
And under our ordinance, you're required to give notice to the dog owner and schedule a hearing, giving notice to both the complainant and the dog owner. So you probably want to get that working on that.
Yes, thank you. And we did one, a couple of years ago. So we can refer to that process. We took evidence, we had a hearing, we swore in witnesses, we did the whole thing. So this is an animal complaint from Ernest Potter on Gloria Avenue about Nicholas DiNardo's dog. So we need to schedule, and Bill, I think we have the process from last time, don't we?
Yes.
Okay. So could you go ahead and schedule a hearing, giving enough time for notice to the dog owner and to the complainant?
And you should also send a copy of the written complaint to Mr. DiNardo.
Do we have a better copy of Bill?
Yeah, this looks like it was kind of chopped off.
That's what I was given the copy.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Right, what it is a complaint from Mr. Potter, and then there's a statement from Ben Truher.
Right.
Who
It's
also,
pretty straightforward.
okay. So Bill's got the information and we'll get that scheduled. JP, do you refresh my memory, do you do an investigation or no?
I was actually called into this today, spent the day interviewing and told them what the process was and how they would comply, and that's what's in front of you tonight.
Okay, all right.
So there seems to be a factual basis for the complaint according to these folks.
Okay. All right. So Bill will take care of that, and thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Great. Thank you for your help tonight.
Okay. All right. Anything else from JP?
Chris's question.
Oh, yes. Okay, Chris, let's go back to you with your question.
So are we done with JP?
No, not quite. Public
Okay, hold
safety
on,
bill-
JP.
Chris has a question about the public safety building.
Just two things that they asked me. I saw them, I don't know, a week or week and a half ago when I was taking a quick tour. They asked me about car charger stations. I said I didn't think we were getting them, but maybe they're code. I have no idea, but I said I'd ask JP, and then I forgot. Apparently they go where the trailer is and they got to do some ledge removal.
We don't.
I thought we had voted to remove the car chargers from the project.
We did.
So,
that's what I thought too.
This, Chris, I think I may have been talking to you, but earlier I first heard about this, and I plan on covering it at the meeting on Friday, because I thought we were pretty clear we weren't going to have those charging stations.
Yeah. I could have sworn we had in one of these board meetings 6 months ago or more that we decided not to have them, but I wasn't sure if they were like, you build a new building, it's a new code. I don't know, but I told them I'd tell you. I was going to call you today and I forgot. The other thing they asked me was antennas. I know the fire department needs 2. I don't know how many the police department needs. They asked me if they were ordered, and I have no idea. I didn't order any. I didn't know I was supposed to.
That the security, who's the place we use up there on Woodstock Avenue?
Central Vermont Communications.
Central Vermont Communications.
Yeah, so they're our contractor for the antennas and installation of the internal communication lines and stuff like that. And there are antenna mounts that were included in the construction of the tower. And I forget how many antennas there are, Chris, but there's at least 2 for each department.
Okay. I figured they were ordered. They asked me and I was going to call you and I forgot. So,
yeah.
But I figured it was covered. But
again, I'll double back on that on Friday to make sure.
I think there's some technical thing about how this is going to work with 2 transmitting that close together, but CBC I think's got a handle on what needs to go up there. So you might want to, somebody might need to talk to CBC, because they're aware of the fact that the police will have a VH or UHF and the town has a UHF, and some of this transmission close together, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I think they have a plan for it. Yeah.
Right.
So they might be the ones to contact about that, either JP or Chris or somebody, and see what exactly.
A couple weeks ago, I was up there, and the gentleman kind of in charge of that up there was concerned about if the antennas and wires were going to be put in, that they do it now as opposed to waiting until all the ceiling tiles up and then you have to put them all down.
Right.
So the the conduit's already been installed. Okay. So those concerns are off the table.
This is all good stuff. I mean,
yes, it is.
I'm
yes,
really
it is.
glad
it's
we're
towards
getting
the end, but you know what they say: the last 10% of any effort takes 90% of the time.
Okay. So thank you for bringing it up, Chris. Appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you.
We
Okay.
need JP to stay for executive session.
Yes. JP, we're going to do an executive session to hear legal advice from our attorney concerning a project that you're involved with. So can we call you back in a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a cruiser relay with the chief. So, but I'll just take my phone with me. I'll be able to pull over and answer.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Okay.
You can call me. We're doing this relay thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Barbara Noyes Pulling. Thanks for hanging in there.
Sure. Good evening. A meeting ago, you asked the Town Planning Commission to start digging into Act 181. That's the new Act 250 or the revamped Act 250 legislation. And we started doing that, but then the group wanted some clarification on where to go next. Just to refresh everybody's memories about this act, we're looking at the housing component of it and the incentives there are for towns to avoid all or some Act 250 permitting if they have certain things in place. So we were going down that list, and a subdivision ordinance is one of the things, and we're working on that. River corridors is another thing on that list, and we're working on that. But there are things like a village center designation, water, wastewater capacity, and then there's the Z word, which kind of stopped the Planning Commission in its tracks. So they asked me to come to you and to ask what you expect of the Planning Commission regarding the act. How far do you want us to go with meeting the requirements, and what kind of timeline you would like us to work on or work from?
Well, I think what we were hoping for was the Planning Commission would just tell us whether these changes, which are significant for the town, would be worth pursuing for the potential benefit that it might generate, which would be no Act 250 jurisdiction over housing development, at least for a period of time. Am I stating that the way you understood it, folks?
It's essentially trying to figure out if it's even feasible to make these village centers in this town.
Right.
That's another one, yes.
There's things that I don't think Rutland Town can adequately do to satisfy the requirements. But and I think that was what we tasked the Planning Commission to see if we could actually meet the requirements. And if we can, then we may pursue it further. And if we can't, then there's no sense in wasting time.
In order to have a village center that has municipal water and sewer, we're looking at the south end of town or center Rutland. But
Right.
center Rutland comes into most of the developable areas in a river corridor. So that's going to boot that area.
Yeah.
And the southern end of town is mostly a commercial type area. So is that going to be feasible for a village designation?
Yeah. We don't have a centrally located area that would actually work.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah, and we could get some of the state people who do this, every day, and maybe take a tour with them and, get their estimation of whether there is a village center or a planned growth center in Rutland Town. But what about zoning? I mean,
No.
I guess the Planning Commission. Go ahead.
I'm remembering, 15 years ago, we did a straw advisory poll among Rutland Town voters who chose to participate. And the straw poll basically said they were in favor of zoning, but a very minimal regulation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember it was, yeah, some zoning, but not a big document. So that's what I remember. I don't know how.
Pluses and minuses to it.
I know.
And so everybody, those that don't like zoning get terrified at the word and get very stubborn. Is
that you and I?
Well, I'm not a big fan of it, but I do know that there might be benefits to having it. It's the way the document's written and, you know, in what people perceive as what it is. One of the problems with zoning is the misinterpretation that you have this document and it has to be utilized and looked at. It's more as a reference document for specific situations or whatever, and not like a novel where it's, you know, it all goes
You read it
together.
all, yeah.
You know, so but usually what happens when you start getting into zoning enthusiasts get carried away. That I believe would be a fair statement. And to get a simple zoning that would cover important issues. One of the things that I've always thought was important that we could get out of zoning is how properties can be used. So if you are buying a piece of property, you know what you can do with it and what the town allows right up front. Our town plan is less precise when it comes to that stuff. That's a plus to it. But if you've got to have a lot of baggage to get some of these definitions and clear cut things, then it becomes, you know, is a benefit worth the other side of it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those, it's one of those things you can argue for, you know, we've been here for 2 and 3 hours now and we could argue till tomorrow and nobody would agree.
I've advised towns on zoning ordinances. I've been on a zoning board. I've been on a planning commission writing zoning ordinances, and I've been a zoning administrator. So I have a view that it can be very helpful for a town, and it can offer predictability for developers. And it also takes Act 250 out of most developments. They back out. And this would be another example for housing if we had it, a major housing project. If we had zoning and we had the designated village center, we'd be calling the shots and not Act 250. So there you are.
Yeah.
So pros and cons.
Zoning can be simple. In reading this Act 181, it looks like the emphasis may be on having the apparatus for reviewing projects and complaints and things like that. Having an administrator, having a development review board or something like that it may be a priority, as opposed to, you know, certainly the length of the zoning, the extent of zoning in town. So I guess the question is still out there. How far would you like us to go? What would you like us to do for recommendations for you?
Well, I think Joe and Kurt raise a really important issues, and that is, as to village centers, do we even have areas that could be designated if that's a requirement? I mean, I think that's important. And as to zoning, well, you know, that's something we would have to decide. But
if you could develop a zoning document that would meet the requirements and not be so complicated and restrictive that people would turn away from it, then I could support that. The problem is I don't know if that's possible to do, because I've seen the ones that have been generated and they get so complicated and so mired in technicalities, and they want to regulate everything. Or do we just try to regulate land use? Is probably the biggest one. That, like you say, it would help development, and some other things that you can and can't do. People are just so afraid of having their rights taken away. But on the other hand, Act 250, which we're under, does a lot of the same things. You want to do something, but there's so many darn things that hoops you got to jump through that, you know, are you better off with the devil you know or the devil you don't know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's-
And, I mean, we could
Find
also.
zoning in less than 100 pages.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
and there are
25 would be good.
Well, just
Right.
remember that some of the things reflected in a zoning ordinance is state statute, so there
Yeah.
are certain things you can't get away from. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we got a split board right now.
A split board, yeah, we feared that. You know, we could, there are state grants, to look at bylaws, to pay for the creation of bylaws. We could suggest that route for zoning and just give it a try, see what.
We need to figure out if we can even have these village centers, because if we don't have a village center, there's no need to have zoning.
Right,
Right.
well,
Yeah,
that's, I mean,
And that may be the order
for
to go.
this particular issue.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Zoning, we should bring it up every once in a while anyway, just to
Yeah.
get Kurt exercise.
No, we're good.
I know, I tried to lead them that way. I've been trying to say, why don't we just, invite a state person down, we'll go around town. That was number one, but as soon as they saw the zoning,
Yeah.
I think that in order, what I think you need to do with this is look at the parts of this that are the most controversial. And I believe the village center will be. And we need to find out if we can meet that criteria. That once you get past that hurdle, then what's the next hurdle? And cross them off. And if we get all of the hurdles done and we come down to zoning, then as a board and planning commission, we've got to weigh are the risk as is the inconvenience or the new restrictions or the new policy going to benefit us more than if we stay without it. But you got to find out, what the basic thing. And I think that's Kurt's point. If we can't meet the village center requirement, then this is a moot point and no sense in beating it up any longer.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of the way you got to go, Bart. You got to see, can
Yeah.
we meet that according to the state's requirements? And if that's a yes, then what's the next,
What
the
else
next
do we
piece?
need to-
What's the next one? And it'll eventually come down to zoning at the end.
Okay,
Because
got it,
it's
yeah.
Z, it would be at the end.
It will be at the end, and it's going to be the most controversial
That's right, it
of
will.
all of the requirements.
That's right.
You saw everybody's hair bristle when they said zoning. It's like, uh-oh.
Okay, so basically we're asking you to do a cost benefit analysis for us.
And if we can meet the requirements.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Okay. Any timeline?
Sometime in this century will be fast enough probably for most of
Okay. Sounds good.
But, if you've got other pressing things, I wouldn't let those slide to work on this. But if you've got the time and you want to look at this and start going through it, I guess sooner it's got to get, I don't know if there's a timeline for the state.
There is a pressing need that the planning commission has, and that is if you have seen the analysis of our subdivision, or our present subdivision regulations that our town attorney did,
Yep.
there is a major rewrite that is required there. So
And
these
that may
folks are
take
gonna
precedence over this.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah. So,
But then again, that could be part of this if we go
Yes, it could.
forward with some
Yeah.
of these tiers. Yeah. We have to do that regardless, the subdivision. 40-year-old subdivision ordinance just does not cut it.
things have
But it was short, right? It was under 100 pages.
Yeah.
That could be now.
Anything else, Barbara?
Thank you. Just mention to the group that Mary, GMP, and myself we're meeting on Thursday to look at the Pocket Park and talk about real estate.
Yep.
Options there.
Question is whether we buy the land at a nominal price to do the pocket park, whether they give it to us or for a nominal fee, whether we lease it, and that's all. But we're going to go take a look at what's there.
Get your options.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
it. That's it for me.
Any other questions for Barbara? If not, thank you very much, and thank the Planning Commission too.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay. Mike Rowe, thanks for hanging in there, and thanks for a lovely luncheon for the Rutland Town seniors newly reorganized under the town
Well,
rec
don't let's
department.
go that far yet.
Well,
We
we're
took our
getting there.
first steps. We'll see how it goes. No, thank you, Mary, for that. We had about 30 people at Denny's today.
Yeah.
They ate quite a bit. At least the bill showed that they ate quite a bit. Which Bill, if you would just remember to give that to Kari tomorrow, and then I can square it with Kari. Thanks to Marty for giving me the credit card. Just don't ignore the other charges on there, Marty. I had a good time afterwards. No, I'm just kidding. A couple things. Obviously, it hasn't rained in a while, so that means without rain, grass doesn't grow. So we might be down to our last mowing. As a matter of fact, this is our last week at doing anything over at Dewey. They are putting the fence up at Dewey and the tennis courts that we had ordered a while ago. So they're starting that on Thursday. Our makeover of the infield and around the border of the infield will take place on the 16th and the 17th. I'm just coordinating with Saratoga Sod to do that, and I've already coordinated with the highway department, so we're gonna see how that goes because it's just really bad there now, and so that will come out of depreciation account. We talked about that before. That's happening in a couple weeks. Trying to think. Soccer started, everything's going well. We joined a kind of a new league and things were very smooth, and parents are very happy and the kids did a great job. So you can look on the website. Bill has a schedule if you want to go check out a game, drive out of town a little bit up to Pittsford, up to Brandon, and take a little tour of the northern part of the state and the county. You can go do that. Thanks to the people that put that all together, which means basketball is right around the corner. Other than that, I don't have a lot other than that we need to have a rec committee meeting sooner rather than later for some topics that I've outlined before. So if we can do it before the next meeting at 5, that would be great. But I really don't want to, for personal reasons, want to wait much longer to have a rec committee.
I can do it.
So before our meeting on the 8th, is that what that calendar date says?
Yep.
That would be pretty awesome if we can do that. Okay, Bill, so if you would warn that, that would be great. I did talk to the chief today, and for you to know that we are doing our trick or treat on the trail for our Halloween party, which is the 25th, right at school, and the chief will have a couple trucks there or a truck there. So that'll be, they did it last year. It was kind of a big hit.
Good.
So we will continue with that. We walk, the 8th grade creates games along the trail around the school at night between 4:30 and 6, and then the town, and it's widely attended. We average about 500-600 people that go through that. So that's something we've been doing now since, I think this is our 4th year, pretty close to that, I think.
And what
So
night is that?
that is the 25th of October. It's a Friday night, 4:30 to 6, if you want to come up. I do have to talk to the chief, but he left just because we used to have Angie, resource officer. So I'll talk to the chief to see if he can spare somebody just for, because there'll be quite a few people coming and going that night. But that is happening then. Other than that, I don't have a lot.
Like as I look at my other calendar, it's possible I may have to transport some children during that hour, in which case I could just call in probably by
Yeah.
phone.
Well, yeah, as long as that would be great. I'm flexible. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for our rec department chair?
We, the gate, we're still doing what we're doing until the fire station is done, correct? I believe, yes. Because normally November 1st, we open it for the season because of plowing, but I think because of,
Oh,
you know what I mean? That's coming up quickly, and I just want to make sure we're kind of
Could you check with?
We left the gate open last winter.
Yeah.
We did leave the
Okay,
gate
that's
open.
obvious. Okay, with the trucks in the garage.
Okay.
That was just my question. I knew they were in there, so I just want to make sure. So it'd be November 1st is when we do that, which is coming right up. Yeah.
Let's get through October first.
It's already October. I mean, it's flying by.
I don't like that type of negativity.
Why? What you got left to do? How many projects you got digging before the ground freezes?
6.
Yeah.
And I'm at the tippy top right now.
Actually, good digging weather because it's dry for a change.
It is. All right. Anything else for Mike?
We're all good.
If not, thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem.
Okay, Larry is not on. Dave Sears, Rutland Town Highway Commissioner, and thank you to you and your crew for removing the dead mattresses on Creek Road. I appreciate it.
Did that the day after the last meeting, and we also did the end of Park Street. Unfortunately, we woke up the campers that were down there. They weren't entirely happy with us, but especially when they tried to leave and we had the truck across the road and they couldn't drive their car out of their campsite. So we didn't make any friends that day. But we rescued a kitty, so it kind of evens out.
Yeah, good.
So the last couple weeks, we did all of our grants and aid stuff, which is basically culvert inlets and outflows, or outfalls, I'm sorry. So we got that all done. I'm waiting for a couple more invoices and I can get that grant paperwork submitted and get a little bit of money back on that. Still waiting for a couple invoices for the sidewalk grant, and then that thing is ready to go. Yesterday we spent some time marking out some culverts and going to do some culvert projects here at the end of the season. We had a sinkhole on Bowles Drive over the winter, and we just kind of let it just sit there, but we're going to take care of that Thursday. And then we got a culvert we got to replace on Sand Hill Circle, and then we got like 6 of them in Colonial Drive neighborhood that need to be done. They don't all need to be done, but they're all old galvanized culverts, and half of them do need to be done. So while we're there, we're just going to do them. We spent today at an OSHA 10-hour training. So we got half of that. We got 5 hours of that. So next Tuesday, we'll go do the other half of our OSHA 10. And this morning in my email, I got finally our MS4 inspection report. I believe it was 7 pages of stuff. And it's not 7 pages of a list. It's 7 pages with pictures and all kinds of stuff. So we got like 7 areas that we need to address that are not, it's all kind of nitpicky stuff. It's kind of like an OSHA inspection. They got to find something, so they do. So we'll spend the next, I got these culverts I got to take care of here in the next week or so. And then we'll work on this MS4 stuff and get this kind of put to bed before the S word starts. And we have a highway committee meeting tomorrow about JP sidewalk. And that's what I got.
Okay, questions or comments or more tasks for our
Park Street.
Park Street. Yeah, let's talk about that.
So we got rid of Dyer Road
Yeah.
for this problem. And I would suggest we proceed to get rid of Park Street.
So that would be the process of
Throwing it up, giving it up or whatever. And that way, whoever owns the land can decide about gating it, about keeping people out, and deal with the cleanup and the trash. And when it becomes their problem and not the town's, maybe so. I don't know what's happened at Dyer Road. I don't know if anybody's gone down, and I don't know if the landowners even care.
I
But it's
by it frequently, but
I've never driven down to that area where the problem was. This is another road that basically goes nowhere. It serves just those farming down there. Do you own land down there?
I used to, and
Town?
then we sold it to the town, so the town owns.
So we own land down there, and I don't know the designation of that road. If,
I don't either.
if it's
I don't know if it's still on the class 4 list or not.
if it's a class 4
There's
or
a,
a trail.
there's a sign on it that says it's a class 4 road
Okay.
and not maintained
Is
in
this-
the winter.
Is it still on our road list?
You know what? That's a good question. I have to look that up.
That's like a great topic.
Well, actually, the part of that might still, part of that's still in the city too. So I don't know where the town line is.
So the point of the town line in the city is where we give it up, and then the landowners would be, you know, as
And
one.
what if we're the landowner?
We're part of the landowner, but if it's not in the town's records as a trail or a class 4 road, it can be gated.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
even if we own the land, it's no
Yeah,
different than
that's
if
right.
you owned it personally. So the town could go down there and gate it and talk to the people using it, and this is gonna be the thing, we're gonna put a gate across here. Everybody's gonna have their own lock, and it's gonna be hooked together. So if you're, whoever's farming, you have your lock, you can go down, unlock the gate, and make sure it's kept locked. And that's the way to handle it. But since we are a stakeholder,
We are.
we are.
Well, it goes to the old buildings covered bridge, which.
You
burned
rebuild the
in
bridge and put the road across the up.
1953.
Right. It's somebody-
So we haven't done much with it since.
Right.
Yeah.
So I say just let's get rid of it. Take this problem away from our, you know, our highway crew does a lot of good stuff, but you know, that's a problem that's not going to go away. People are going to continue to dump down there.
Okay, so does our highway committee want us, you know, start the process of,
We can talk about it tomorrow.
yeah, why don't you
Briefly.
do that?
We
Yeah.
got a scheduled meeting.
We took that load of trash out of there. It was $334 worth of trash we took out of there.
Yeah.
God.
In a very nasty job.
Thank you. And
It was
yeah,
not,
it's-
it was not pleasant, by the way.
No,
And the problem is, and you know this, Dave, as well as all of us here in this room, it's not going to go away because they're just
No.
going to come back. Well, good, we can bring our trash down and
Yeah.
town hauls it away for free.
yeah.
And the people camping down there want to be on the other side of the gate when the gate's locked. But that's, you know, that's my solution. So
The city's also got the right of way down there for their water line.
then they can put their lock on the gate too.
They get a lock to, a key to the lock too.
Well, actually, what do you do is everybody buys your own lock and you hook all the locks together. That's the way it works. Nobody has to have keys. So the town of Rutland will have a lock. The city will have a lock. And if Jesse Billings or his sons are firemen, they'll have a lock. You just go down, unlock your lock, and they're all hooked together.
Okay, well,
That's the simplest way to do it.
highway committee is going to
We're
advise
going to
us.
talk about it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave, and the guys for cleaning up.
Pass it along.
Anything else for the town highway? When do we start doing contracts for our remaining plowing people?
Whenever.
I just talked to Tim Hubbard the other day, or yesterday, as a matter of fact. He's in the process. He just bought a new truck, new to him truck, and he's looking at buying another one. So he's gearing up now. He's on board for plowing this year. We're all set. I just got to get with him one of these days and get a contract signed and move that thing forward. But we're all set. And we did get our salt price. I forgot to mention that. It was actually early this year. I was surprised to get it, but last year it was $98 a ton, and this year it's $98.75. So went up 75 cents. And if I applied that to what we spent last year, it's about another $1,100, just shy of $1,100. If we were to buy the same amount we bought last year.
Okay.
I'll tell you
But
in
we
the
did,
spring.
but we did increase our salt budget a little bit for this budget year also, so it's covered.
Good. Anything else for highway commissioner? If not, should we do the Stantec thing for the landfill while Dave is on? I don't know. It doesn't really cover. Okay, no, we'll let you go. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, Bill Sweet, Town Administrator. Good evening.
All right. What we got left? Not much left. In your packet, I gave you the current list of vacant appointment positions, which does include the Marble Valley Regional Transit District need. So that's on there too. We have not had anybody ask for it yet.
Am I imagining things, or did you offer to do this, Dave?
No one else.
Well,
I mean,
lo and behold,
is there a motion?
a long 2 weeks. No one's applied, so.
Is there a motion?
When do they meet? The regional planning.
Didn't
commission
say.
is on the third Tuesday of the month, which is when select board here meets also.
Devin is the one that gave me the information, so I can find out for you.
Okay, why don't we hold off and we'll see.
Okay.
And then we'll wait until a meeting when you're not here and we'll vote you in.
Or when I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the other 3 pages are the ones, and then there's actually the ones at the end are historical ones. I don't have a record of us ever actually wrapping those up. So there's some right at the end that we typically do every year that we didn't circle back to. So I guess they're technically still there, but
Yeah, okay.
they can hold on. But we do have the moderator, the cemetery commissioner, and a couple alternate appointments. So that's where we stand.
So we will need to pay attention to moderator as we get close to town meeting and informational stuff, I think. But we don't have to do it yet.
Oh yeah. The next thing is the Stantec agreement. So this is their annual monitoring, and this is once a year. It's what they've done in the past. Except they're doing it once a year instead of twice a year. Mary, in your part there, it has all the maps and everything, which I did not include because it's just our landfill, but that's all.
All of the monitoring wells.
Yeah, it's all the individual locations,
Yeah,
which.
Okay. I did look, let's see, the not to exceed number for this is 9,500. We budgeted 8,000.
Mhm.
So.
And there is an additional problem is they didn't actually get us the bill in time for last year. So it went on to this fiscal year's budget. So we are going to be way over. So I told him next year, this time I said, that can't happen again. So he apologized.
We don't have the
We've already spent the money, but it was for last year's monitoring.
Yeah.
But we
How much was last year's?
I think it was 8,000.
Was that the 8?
Yeah, I can look at your budget status sheet.
But of course, that was swept into capital improvements because that's what we do.
Exactly. So, yeah. So I did
be a year behind.
We used to have Oscar Garcia,
Yeah.
but he left.
Yeah.
So he left around this time last year. So they had some internal changes. So we did get billed for it. We did pay it, but we paid last year's out of this current fiscal year's
when do
money.
they actually?
Or a year behind.
October?
They're going to do it like very soon. Yeah.
Can they bill us in June?
We're going to the same
So
problem that we'd spend next year's money.
But we'd have a
could
budget that we could adopt in between now. And
We'd
we
be
cover
behind
it.
you. So the way we've always done these that were like that is you take the money from that line item and you definitely
Yeah.
spend that one line item.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, the general fund will either have a negative amount or positive amount depending on what the other items. So you just got a deficit spend that line item.
So, well, what's your pleasure? It's a state requirement.
Yeah.
Move to approve and authorize the chair to sign.
Second,
Any discussion?
we're not asking you to pay.
I know. Okay, if not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No.
All right. Thank you. I'll take care of that. I did circle back with the Regional Planning Commission. They do have the preliminary traffic study for the plaza done, but they had some other things come up, so they haven't given the formal study done, the traffic flow in and out of the Green Mountain Plaza.
Okay.
They were doing that. They did that for us. It is done. So I do have some preliminary numbers, but without some context, it's a little overwhelming. So, but they're going to circle back to that and get that to us so we can continue on that project of helping traffic flow in the Green Mountain Plaza. This afternoon, I also worked with Jeremy from the Regional Planning Commission. We got the application in we all remember the MERP grant where we had the energy audits done for this building and for the highway garage. There was extensive work done, a lot of recommendations. Late last week, Vermont Building General Services says, great, now you can take that recommendation and apply for a grant, and it's due by next Friday, which is like this Friday. So like 8 days to do this. So Jeremy and I got it done this afternoon. We'll see what happens. We said basically we apply for what the recommendations are and see what happens. And it's about $460,000 between the two buildings. So it's everything they suggested. So we'll see what happens.
What's our match?
There may not be much, if anything at all. He says they're trying to just spend the money they have.
Well,
so I said we were happy to help them with that. But one of the things includes is all new lighting for the highway garage, like replacing everything with all that. So all sorts of stuff. It was a very extensive report.
Thanks to you and to Jeremy.
Yeah. So hopefully we got it in, we got it done. He's very happy with it. So, I don't know if anybody knows when you walked in, but the building power washed earlier this week, got rid of all the bugs around the lights. It's white again.
Good.
It's looking good. And I think that's about it. Just hope if you didn't all see it on the calendar, I'm not going to be here Thursday, Friday, and half Wednesday.
Okay.
Oh.
As in tomorrow, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to be here for our finance?
But Kari's Kari can do all that. So yeah, she's that's gonna be her hers to run. But yeah, it's all set. It's all coordinated. You are, yep. We're going to Portland, and our flight lined up a little differently. So
Portland,
Oregon.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll be back Sunday afternoon. So I'll be back next week. So yeah, be nice to.
All right. Any other questions for Bill?
We had that comment received this afternoon. I gave you all a copy of it.
I don't particularly care for this guy's attitude.
Well,
the signs are up, and we have done more to stop this than anything. So I think that
do we want to, so this came through our contact page on the website.
Yeah.
And it was addressed to the select board. So I made to make sure you guys are a copy of it.
So
you're going to do nothing like everybody else. I mean, we've already taken the step. The signs are up.
Right. And
signs are up. So,
and we are also trying to eliminate the island where the panhandlers stand, which will maybe at least, if they're going to go down there and do it, they're going to either have to stand in traffic, which is now a legal thing and a violation, and Ed can arrest them and drag them out of it. So
the ordinance is not legal for us to adopt.
Well, we had it. We had
it.
It went away.
So, yeah. Maybe just an email back to him.
I can follow up with him.
With the history saying we had an ordinance. The ACLU threatened to sue us because it was
there was a Supreme Court case that had come down that made parts of the ordinance
illegal.
Yeah. So we didn't have much choice.
And we have put signs up, and we are taking steps to eliminate the island.
Right.
And
so I'm happy to follow up if you want me to, or
I
that's
would.
fine. It'll be.
I don't like
kill him with some kindness.
It'll be fine. And I read this. I'm like, what's funny is like we've actually done something for every one of his points. Like it's all we've.
So what else do you want?
Trying.
We are trying.
I do have an inquiry from. This is just General Randall Smathers at the library saying, "Hey, do you have any sense of what we should be asking for a percent increase. What's palatable for a percent increase? And he pointed out that the mayor said the library budget couldn't be more than 3%. We haven't started crunching any numbers on our side, but if you wanted any input there, he's asking for what we think.
I don't think it's really our place to say. I mean, they get some pushback on it every year. It's always passed, but we always get comments on it. And if we start telling them what to do, then it's us taking a position, which is not what we do. The voters take the position.
That's right.
What I don't get is why is he asking for what the increase should be? Wouldn't the increase be whatever this cost of operating the library is going to be?
Like,
because everybody's going to say nothing, none, if you ask.
well, exactly right.
Right. So we'll suffer with what they do, and the voters will say yes or no.
Right.
What I would really like them to do, and I've said this
It
before,
sounds like
is
money
take the
grabbing.
word
It's
free out of it should be the Rutland Library, not the Rutland Free Library, because there's nothing free about it.
Virginia Door.
Huh?
Virginia Door.
I
A
have-
group of ladies.
I have
started the Rutland Free Library.
understand, but there is nothing free about it.
125.
We try to make it free to the thing, but it is not free.
So his question on, does the town have a target in mind if you want to see the budget come in at? I think our answer is no, that's up to you, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's what I would say.
Okay.
You can tell him that people will be sure to groan because property taxes is.
And he actually mentioned
they were.
that. State education, property tax, health insurance rates, all of these increases. So anyway.
So
he's
they
got a
gotta
lot
do
of-
if they're smart, they'll do the best they can with a minimal increase and try to tighten it up just as tight as they can. And that's what you do. I mean, it's what we do. It's what we're gonna do here in 2 months.
You know, I served on the library board.
We're
And
gonna
they
crunch
did.
numbers till our
They
heads hurt.
did, so.
And I'm sure they do. I don't think
Well,
they
they
have.
do have some grant money that they use pretty creatively, so.
This has nothing to do with the library, but it has to do with Matt was talking about the fire districts and their water woes. And I know that Robert Clark had talked to us once about some stuff that was out there.
Yes.
And I wonder, and I think some of it wasn't accurately conveyed to him and then to us, but I wonder if we should start looking around to see if we, as a town, can help these fire districts, either by helping write grants or doing something, because it's all going to come down to one thing: is these small community fire districts with their common wells and the things are going to go away, and they're all going to have to be on municipal water. And if there's some way, I don't know if we could, if they have to bond to do this, if we can help with that, or if we can help with some of the process or whatever. I don't know what's out there, but I think we need to start looking at this before it becomes a crisis.
Well, Bob Clark was a really good resource before about what might be available in state funding, which then it dried up. We had two.
And I
things
don't
we
know
were
if
gonna
that's
pursue.
something,
But
because
it's time to ask again. I
Yeah,
think.
so
we have that.
Robert Clark come to us. There was that state program they're looking at to do like municipal wide evaluations, and he said that it kind of program just kind of went away. Like it just didn't.
But I
come
wonder
to
if
fruition,
anything
so.
is out there that might have taken its
Yeah.
place. We have that other committee that's
The water sewer. Committee.
Water Sewer Committee, which is, so maybe we need to start, just have a meeting and see if there's something we can do. And I don't know if he's the best resource to ask, but I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks, because these people are going to be, I think, this is, the handwriting's on the wall, that they're all going to end up on city water one way or the other.
Yeah, I think the city is gearing up to study the same issue.
Right.
So I suspect that DPW or their committee will be looking at that as well. So, I mean, if we can coordinate, support that in any way.
I don't know if we
Results.
need meet with the city. We do have that
We have an intermunicipal
municipal
committee.
committee. We could go talk. I just think
But
I'd like to.
Robert Clark might be working for the city on this because he has in the past, right?
Maybe we ought to just reach out to him, tell him what
Yeah.
we're thinking, and see if he's got any ideas. That's what
Let's start that way.
No problem.
And the timing is pretty good because if we end up meeting with him, the city's working on it and we would be ahead of our budget process and we might want to
Just
put
in-
some money in for
if we
us.
have to do something.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I'd like to figure out is that if some of this infrastructure has to be, water mains have to be built and stuff like that, do we take those over like we have in the past? And then they become part of the municipal operation. The city may build these customers directly, but the infrastructure has always been ours. That Gleason Road stuff, we ended up with it, the different things. So these are some things that we need to look into.
So we'll start with Robert Clark.
Absolutely.
And then maybe a meeting with him and this water sewer committee, who's just about the whole world in Rutland Town is on that.
I think we're all just about the boards.
We can meet with him maybe mid-October-ish.
I'll see what I can put together.
Thank you. Yeah, good. So Public Safety Building Committee, I think we dealt with the one issue that JP had. Personnel Committee, we didn't meet because we turned it to a finance committee and then we didn't meet for the COVID reason. So we're meeting tomorrow.
No, there was a personnel committee meeting.
Oh, do we? Oh God, it's all a blur.
That was
Matt and I did meet.
that was the Wednesday after the last board meeting.
Okay, right.
Did they do anything? Did they amount to anything? I didn't read all the minutes.
We
getting
diligently.
You mean you didn't read my copy and paste? I mean,
No
I mean my
action,
carefully
no
crafted minutes.
Getting closer to the end.
These weren't quite copy and paste.
No action, no recommendations.
Tomorrow
They
might
accomplished
have
too
got
much.
us to the finish line, but we're doing finance
So we're
instead.
doing finance, so, okay. I know you all want to be on personnel, so I'll keep that in
Well,
mind.
since we have to do finance, somebody else should finish personnel.
Great.
After you did all the work.
Okay, so we met with the Diamond Run Mall, we met with the homeless response team. We did the Stantec proposal, we did the errors and emissions for the listers, the Act 250 revisions, Village Center, we talked with Barbara about. Any other new items that we haven't addressed? We do need to meet briefly in executive session for a report from the town attorney. And Matt does have something.
We have these minutes from the public safety building.
Oh.
September 10th.
Oh,
And
right.
I did have a comment on that. And again, Kurt, I'm gonna look to you for confirmation of your understanding, but on the back page of this, it says, discuss the vote of the last fiscal year to use Cortina in funds to make up, I think that's supposed to read a police budget
And it's
deficit.
going to be any.
Oh, any,
Any,
okay,
yep.
any police budget deficit. Town treasurer said the police budget had a surplus, so money was not taken from the Cortina fund. I'm not sure that that's exactly what was intended. I think maybe the treasurer did say there was a surplus, but that was maybe the result of taking funds from the Cortina fund into the, so no additional funds were taken. I'm not
Yeah, I don't think
entirely clear on that.
I don't think we ever dove into clarifying any of all that. I think the minutes probably reflect what was said, but I don't know if we ever clarified any of that afterwards or not.
I think so.
I think we just moved on to the
So
next thing.
maybe I would this, Kurt, do you think this would be more accurate if it said no additional money was taken from the Cortina fund?
I don't know.
Okay. So
I'm not sure if she's going to have that for tomorrow, but that may be
a discussion for tomorrow.
it's probably going to be a whole other meeting.
You're right. It wasn't exactly clear how that went because of the conversation was wasn't really clear. So
Yeah.
that was about as accurate as I could.
We will probably have to go over that in another meeting, possibly, and have Andrew review it as well, because
Yeah.
I'm concerned, and we probably need to revisit this again as to how the Cortina money is being handled, because I think we may have some confusion. The first time that I encountered this, we were trying to decide, like, at the end of a fiscal year, I think, how much to pull out of it to address what had already happened in the year. And then that's when we decided to use percentages. At this point, I almost think we just have authorized as we go, however much we decide we
Yeah, I think you
use, because
you pull your overage at the end.
Yeah, that's what
end
I'm
of the
thinking.
budget year, and you pay your.
So we don't need to draw it out.
Pay your
during-
debts.
The police budget, any over on the police budget, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know if this was by vote or whatever, it's to be made up by any excess 1% money. That was done long before the COVID or the Cortina monies came into the picture. I personally think we need to keep the Cortina monies out of the operating budget of the police department unless we use it for a specific thing, like we use monies from the lump sum amount they paid us to buy a cruiser and outfit it. If there was sufficient funds in there to, I know we said that we would put 150 grand toward the hiring of an officer to offset that cost out of the budget. But I think rethinking some of this, we need to be clearer about it, but the operating budget that the voters approve, any overspending or any deficit to that budget should be made up out of the 1% money. That was always the way it was done. It comes out of that. So this particular year, we had 340,000, 350,000 from the 1% money that was over our estimated 1.1 million. And if the police budget had run a deficit, that would be made up out of that 1% money. Somehow or other, we've got to stay away from mingling this Cortina monies in the operating budget. It should be used strictly for the designated patrolling and the cost associated with that, which we have determined there's like a 10% or 12% administrative cost, which I'm not sure that's the best way to go, but we need to.
No, because we started doing that calculation, and we're gonna be over on how much
we put in. We're going to be putting in more. What I don't want to see done is that we subsidize the police budget with Cortina money, and at the end of the year, they have an excess, which is lost to the capital improvement fund. I'd like to see their budget come in as flat,
which I think is what we tried to do.
So, I mean, here it is.
Yeah.
We had all of our expenses, and then we just said less hotel fund, 150,000. So we didn't designate it to anybody.
Right.
I think
We
for
had
this
discussions.
year,
Right.
what
Maybe-
we did was we planned to use the 150. And that's,
Toward the
what we
officer.
should
Yeah,
use
I think
if
the
we.
officer got added to the budget as a line.
Yeah.
And then its
Right.
costs were offset by that 150.
And we had the outside detail salary,
Yep.
which was also Cortina.
Yep.
And we had overtime, which we dropped dramatically, but we did have the other officer.
So what I guess what I'm thinking is, this issue of allocating percentages. I mean, we had to go through that exercise as part of the contract with the Cortina when we were trying to figure out what the impact was, and that helped come up with the numbers that we came up with. But as far as our budgeting goes, we've decided 150,000 this year. I think we apply that at the end of the year to the budget to make things as even as possible. If there's still a deficit, the 1% would cover it, and then if not, then it carries over into the.
Yeah, and I thought that's what we tried to move to do at the
Yes.
end of June, was to offset the deficit of the police department with the Cortina funds to make the police budget net out to zero.
Yeah, that was your motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had already applied the 1% funds, didn't we?
No.
We hadn't applied the 1%.
No.
That's what's been done in the past,
Yes.
prior to
Yeah.
having, if there was a deficit, they took additional 1% money if there was excess. Then we got this Cortina money and we said, well, we're gonna use, but I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not, because, we were anticipating when we authorized this budget that the chief could go out and hire somebody, but here we are almost a year later and we're still not there. So the money theoretically, or supposed to be in this budget to do that, starting July 1st.
Yep.
Yeah, because the hard part is calculating what effect the Cortina has on the budget itself. So when you try to calculate that you can't, especially because
The expense or the income, because we gotta try and get a handle on the expense, because that's what the money is for.
yeah, but if you're just offsetting you're essentially saying the Cortina is causing the deficit of the police department. So that's why at year end you pay off that deficit with the Cortina fund.
Well, that's 1 year's worth.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to use that percentage thing toward the administrative costs, which was.
We did.
And that, I don't know if that's actually accurate, because it's hard to say how much, whatever Lynette has to do or whatever the officers have to do, how much that ties into it.
Well, yeah, because we tried doing that calculation at year end, and there was going to be a surplus in that budget,
right,
if we did the calculations.
And we don't want it.
And we don't want that.
Yeah. I just don't want to see any of that, any money taken out of that Cortina fund to go into the police budget.
And then,
and then end up with too much and then it's gone. So
the hard part is there's no separate ledger for the overtime directed patrols, because you can't, by the time you try to break all that out.
Well, there is though. They use a separate sheet for it, so it's all.
There is.
Yeah, but when it goes into the budget, it's not. So you can't track it in the budget because it's still on. It's separate line, but it's all still in the same budget sheet. And then we were trying to figure out added vehicle expenses and stuff like that. So that's where
you got that percentage.
That's where it was just easier to say that the Cortina is causing the deficit in the police department, and you pay that off at the end of the year with the Cortina fund, and that will cover your directed patrols, your overtime, your any added police cruiser expenses, and
to do it that way.
Well,
you could,
and then when we
we're
budget,
gonna start budgeting pretty soon.
And
when we start budgeting, you just have to make sure we're not overly increasing the budget to offset what Cortina is costing us. So we have to keep that budget pretty stable in a increase. That way, it's hard to explain what I'm trying to. What I'm thinking.
I'm almost thinking we'd be better off
Part of
spending the
it's
money, deficit spend the
2010.
lines, and then at the end of the year, just make it up with a lump sum.
Yeah,
that's kind of what he's. Huh? No,
Because we don't necessarily know the number for quite a while after the close of the fiscal year.
right, but you would know roughly what the deficit would be. So say I don't know. We could think about this.
We did it.
That's why we weren't. Yeah. That's why we did the motion the way you suggested.
Yeah.
Whatever the deficit.
Yeah.
So, because we didn't know.
Yeah. So I guess was that ever reconciled and adjusted? And
Don't know. We'll find out maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
Probably not tomorrow because we got to focus on capital improvement. But
Yeah.
I suppose they could be
We've got
tied.
two moving amounts here that are causing some.
Cortina fund is a separate calculation. All right.
Make things complicated.
So we still need a fairly brief executive session. And this is to hear advice from town council on one of the tasks that we gave him.
So move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded.
We want JP.
We do want JP included.
Amended.
Hang on.
So, all in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll put Sharon down.
Just be like a little leak.
I don't know if WikiLeaks.
We'll just leak
Okay,
that.
so we are Back on the record. Yes, we are recording. It is 9:45. We just came out of executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.